Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description box for original creator of this beautiful creation. Quote! Screams could be heard through the mansion in the underworld. The person of said screams was none other than Venelana, formerly Biel Gremory. A woman that had beautiful brown hair. She is the current lady of the house of Gremory. Www. Cried a young-looking man. He looked no older than Venelana Gremory. He wore a white jacket with yellow trim. Underneath he wore a black collared shirt. He was Zeoticus Gremory, husband and current head of the house of Gremory. The reason for his screams of pain? His wife was crushing his hand. The reason why she was crushing his hand? She was currently giving birth to twins. So you can say she was in a bit of pain. Honey, you're breaking my hand. Zeoticus cried out only for the pressure to increase. His wife glared daggers at him. I'm sorry dear, she said so sweetly that you could get a sugar high. I would gladly trade places with you if you want. Zeoticus paled and shook his head furiously. I can see ahead, exclaimed the doctor in the room. I need you to push now, Gremory-sama. The next 10 minutes were followed with grunts, screams, and crying. The crying from one Lord Gremory from his injured hand. Congratulations Lord and Lady Gremory, it's a boy. The doctor said, handing them the crying baby. The baby was taken by Venelana into her arms. He has your hair, Zeoticus. She spoke lovingly while cradling her child. Yes he does, but he certainly whines like you do. Zeoticus said, trying to make a quick joke. He froze when he saw the dark, murderous aura that she was giving. What did you say? I said I'm going to get your other child. Zeoticus responded while quivering. Good. That's what I thought you said. She said, smiling. All traces of murder gone. Zeoticus stood up from the chair next to his wife's bed and went to a nearby crib and picked up a baby and brought him back to where his wife was. This baby had crimson red hair that had the same style that Venelana has. He was the definition of cute among babies. What stuck out most though were his eyes. Instead of the teal color or violet that his parents had, he had the colors of his grandfather's. He had electric blue eyes that showed warmth and love. Naruto, say hello to your younger brother. You are now in charge of him only if you are an hour older than him. Venelana told her child. Have you decided on a name for him yet? I have already named our firstborn. Zeoticus asked his wife. He absolutely loved Japanese culture. When he went to the human world, he also loved their language. That is where he got the name Naruto. Maelstrom, not the fish cake that is used in ramen. Took his wife convincing to name him that. That I have. Cirzex Gremory, Venelana said. Zeoticus smiled at the name. That a lovely name, just as lovely as you. Zeoticus said. Venelana smiled at her husband before taking Naruto in her arms along with Cirzex. Naruto, you must protect Cirzex now. Remember, family is the most important thing. We always take care of each other and never betray one another. She said. None of the occupants in the room would never know how important those words were and how they were ignored. 6 years later. Haha, laughed a red-haired child. You can't get me, Ni-chan. He yelled out. Behind him was another redhead chasing after him. This redhead was currently keeping his distance though. He was much faster than his younger brother. Ever since he could remember he was always faster than anyone his age, hence why he was keeping his distance. It would be no fun if he would catch his brother instantly. Come on Naruto ni, you're too slow, cried the younger child. The now revealed Naruto smiled. He loved his brother. They were almost inseparable. Naruto would say he was as close to Cirzex as he was to Ruvel Phoenix. Ruvel was the current heir to the House of Phoenix. They had met when their parents needed to talk about grown-up things just like the other houses. Those included the House of Astaroth, House of Citri, and the House of Glaciolabulas. Their respective heirs were Ajuka Astaroth, Serafal Citri, and Falbium Glaciolabulas. He had met all of them multiple times before, but he would not say he was as close to them as he was with Ruvel. Well, except for Serafal. In the eye of her parents and others she was very serious. She acted as if she had no emotion, that never heard of the word fun. But when she invited Naruto to her room, she went ballistic. From yelling about how boring and meaningless all these meetings were to how she just wanted to play and not be a stiff all her life. Don't get her wrong, she liked having manners and being smart. She just hated not having fun while business was happening. That was the day he became friends with Serafal. He also befriended the other heirs also. Ajuka was a very respectful child and talented child. While he wasn't as serious as Serafal was when she was in business mode, he did show respect to others. He also had a weird addiction, fetish for making new inventions. Such as a device that helped the maids clean. He believed he called it a vacuum. Falbium was a very outgoing boy. He always wanted to do something. He could never sit still no matter what you did. They were a ragtag bunch of kids that formed good friendships with each other. Now that is to say that Naruto and Sirzex were without their quirks. Sirzex was extremely childish. Them being 6 years old had nothing to do with his behavior. He acted 10 times more childish than Serafal did. That was a lot. He seemed to not know when things were serious or when to be serious. Now Naruto was an enigma. He had one of the weirdest quirks of them all, ramen. Some say he just liked the dish while his mother says he was cursed because of his name that his father gave him. He didn't care. All that mattered to him is if he got to eat ramen once a day. Other than his ramen addiction, he was also a blend of all the others' personalities. He was very serious when he needed to be. Childish when with his friends. When it came to training, he showed more enthusiasm than Falbium. He was a believer in hard work. For most devils, they believed that you had to be born with greatness. He was not. He was not as fortunate as his brother Sirzex. While Sirzex was able to his mother's ability the power of destruction, Naruto was born with vast magic reserves that no one noticed. His body naturally hid his massive reserves, only allowing a little more than average to be noticed. Not that he knew he had massive reserves either. Sirzex, watch out! Naruto shouted out. Sirzex was currently looking back laughing at Naruto, so he was unaware of the china cabinet that was ahead of him. By the time he turned around, Sirzex slammed into it, knocking down the plates, mugs, and other dishes down, shattering on the ground. Sirzex adopted a horrified expression. His mother would kill him. She was a scary woman when she put her foot down. Before him or Naruto could do anything, they heard a sickly, sweet voice. What happened here, kids? The crimson-haired brothers turned around to face their horrifying mother. Her aura screamed run, but they couldn't as it froze their bodies where they stood. Sirzex gulped and tried to form an explanation in his head to tell his mother and await his death. He opened his mouth to speak. I did it, and was interrupted by Naruto. He stared wide-eyed at his brother. Did he want to die? I was chasing after Otuto and wasn't looking where I was going. I ran into the cabinet and broke everything. Naruto stared into his mother's eyes, meeting her ferocious stare. Sirzex was just left gaping like a fish. He ran into the cabinet. He broke his mother's dishes. Why is Naruto taking the blame? Is that so? Naruto nodded. Venalana rubbed the bridge of her nose and sighed. Clean up this mess and then go to your room. No maids are to help you, understood? He nodded. Good. Also no ramen for a month. The moment those words left her mouth, Naruto felt his heart break. How would he survive? Sirzex, let's go. You have training to finish. Venalana said as she started to walk away. Sirzex stayed behind. Why? Why did you take the blame? Why? You're an idiot. It's my job to protect my little brother, is it not? If you took the blame, Ka-san would punish you. Before Sirzex could respond, they heard Venalana shouting to Sirzex. Sirzex left, leaving Naruto behind to go train, not knowing this would be an everyday occurrence for years to come. Time skips. That was the life of one Naruto Gremory. At first it was nothing major. He understood that Sirzex had the power of destruction, so he needed to be trained in it. So he was trained later, a year later, in basic magic such as water, wind, fire, earth, and lightning magic. He found he was very adept in lightning magic to where he could send lightning to different parts of his body to increase his speed and shock opponents when he touched them. But that was all he was trained in by his parents. The moment he mastered the basics, they left him to his own devices and continued to work with Sirzex. While Venalana left nothing to Naruto to help, his father let him have his old magic books from when he was a kid before abandoning him for Sirzex. By the time he turned 10, he perfected all basic magic. He could wash and clean himself with just his magic and not making a mess. He was able to repair the training ground outside when he used more destructive magics. He could power the whole city with just his lightning magic. The maids were really impressed with his growth. They already took a liking to him as he treated them as family. While all the Gremories did this, he went a step further and would do his own laundry or clean his room, saying he didn't want them to have to work so much. Some became smitten with him. Then came his grandparents. They visited quite often, saying it was for checking on how the clan head was running things. But they actually just wanted to spend time with their grandkids. They also came to see how they were improving. They were impressed with Sirzek's use of the power of destruction, but also a little disappointed because he had low aptitude for any elemental magic. Plus, the power of destruction was not a Gremory trait, so they did not like him being so advanced in a Biel trait. They were astonished in Naruto's skill in elemental magic. The way he used each spell with flawlessness and not even breaking a sweat was amazing. Especially when he showed him his speed while channeling lightning magic in his limbs. It showed the Gremory's adaptedness and powerful magic that they are known for. Zeoticus and Venelana paid it no mind, as they thought it was normal for someone to be able to use basic magic that easily. Something that his grandparents did not miss. This continued for decades. During that time, Sirzek then started to abuse the fact that Naruto would always take the blame for him. Whenever he would break something or destroy something with his power of destruction, he would immediately blame Naruto. To say Naruto was furious was an understatement. He was fine taking the blame when they were children, but taking the blame while they're teenagers. Obviously Sirzek was still a spoiled kid. But he let it go. He was family after all. This remained until the Great War happened. The war between angels, fallen angels, and devils. Naruto didn't know how or why the war started, but he knew the devils were involved in it now. It was a terrible war. Casualties, bloodshed, and tears. The war had lasted over a century. The devils and fallen took the most losses as they had no means of repopulating their race besides the standard ways. But for the devils, it was worse, considering devils can go centuries before having a child. The devils were barely standing their ground in the war. That all changed when Naruto was able to improve the most basic magic spell. Teleportation. With his massive reserves that he became aware of when he was 12, he was able to spread a circle big enough to teleport hundreds of devils. A power like that made the war shift. While they had an army confront the enemy, within seconds they would outnumber the enemy forces by 3 to 1. That forced the fallen to retreat and only fight if anyone forced their way on their territory and cause heaven to convert more humans to angels. And then it all stopped. The fights ended with the death of the 4 Satans. But that would have been a great opportunity to finish the devils, but they didn't. Naruto thought that was suspicious. The angels had all the humans in the world to convert, so why call for a truce? Unless they lost God in that battle between the Satans. It didn't matter, as the leaders accepted the ceasefire. But that lasted only a few decades. The most prestigious houses took over leadership, one of them being the Baals. But the former Satan's descendants wanted to finish off the fallen. The fallen had lost many during the war. But so did the devils. The devils were in the millions before the war. Now they were only above 1 million, maybe 2 in numbers. This caused a civil war to break out. The old faction against the rebels. The leaders of the rebels were none other than the future clan's children. Naruto, Sirzek, Serafal, Ajuka, and Falbium. They led the revolt against the old faction. Many more devils were lost, slowly making them become endangered. Then Naruto did it again. While he couldn't transport hundreds anymore due to devils being spies for the old faction, he perfected the transportation circle. He trained days and nights to get it down. It took blood, sweat, and more blood to perfect it. Instant teleportation. Now while all devils could do and use this magic, Naruto made it his own. He was able to use it without the use of the Gremory seal, making it an invisible teleportation. But that's not all. He required no time to use it at all. All he had to do is think about where he wanted to be, like a standard teleportation, but instead of waiting for the circle to charge, he instantly teleported. Think Hiraishin. The drawback was physical exhaustion. He could use it a minimum of 5 times before sweating and 10 before falling to his knees. 11 and he went unconscious. That is what made the civil war end. The 5 of them charged the deceased Lucifer's home and did battle with the 4 Satan's children. But they were expecting this. Because at the entrance stood one woman who had destroyed countless rebel forces. The one that stood before them today. Graphia Lucifuge, a stunning beauty from the Lucifuge clan. The last of her clan. Your resistance against Lucifer Sama ends here. She stated with a cold, emotionless voice. Naruto stepped forward. Listen, Gray-chan, he dodged an ice spear. We just want to end this horrible leadership. Your current masters want to go to war with the Fallen. We lost too many devils in the war and we would lose more against the Fallen. His friends nodded. What about your own fighting against us? She inquired. Have we not lost many of our own in this civil war? We have, but that is what we and the rest of the devils want. If we were to attack the Fallen, heaven may get involved, thus causing another great war. This is to keep our race alive. Graphia didn't respond. Instead, she stuck her hand towards them and had ice spikes shoot out the ground. The rebel leaders jumped out the way. You guys go on ahead. I'll deal with her, Naruto shouted. They were reluctant but went ahead, knowing how stubborn Naruto could be. As he watched them go, Graphia trapped his legs in ice. I am sorry, but I have to end you now and take care of your friends, Graphia said as she formed an ice spear in her hand and went to throw it. She stopped as she heard him speak. Why? He asked. Why would you listen to him? Rizavam just wants to start a pointless war. For what? To have our race driven further to extinction? Graphia lowered her spear. You are the last of your clan. House of Lucifuge is gone besides you. Why? Because of the war that happened. Many other pillars were taken out as well. We are currently down to 37 houses left. Why fight us and lose more? She dropped to her knees. I know it must be hard. Losing loved ones. I lost friends and family in the war. Even the maids in our home were killed because of this civil war. He channeled fire magic to his legs and broke the ice. He walked over to her and got down to look in her now tear-filled eyes. Join us. I can give you a home and treat you as family. If you don't want to be a part of my family, then we will let you live on your own. There is no reason for you to die. Your family's name will end with you if you keep fighting for the wrong side. She stared into his calm, alluring blue eyes. She saw no deceit or greed. She saw concern and regret for what he might have to do. I hate killing, but if we have to keep the peace we have, all those who try to disrupt it will have to die. There won't be a true peace until every faction understands each other, but until then, I will try to keep peace as much as I can, Naruto stated. Graphia was entranced with his words and determination. Will you join us, Graphia-chan? Naruto stood up and held out his hand. Graphia looked at him for a moment before nodding her head and grabbing it. Good, now let's go help my Otuto. He tends to get reckless. As he said that, an explosion happened, destroying half of the mansion. As they reached the mansion, Naruto's brother and friends were having a hard time against 3 of the 4 Satan's children. Rizavam was just standing back watching the fight ensue in front of his eyes. Graphia, go help them out. I'll deal with Rizavam. Naruto didn't wait for a response as he shot off towards Rizavam, who didn't see him coming till he was punched through the wall. Rizavam stood up holding his now bruised jaw. When he looked to see who hit him, he scowled deeply. So, I finally get to meet the heir to the Gremory house and hero of the Great War. Naruto just frowned. I don't care what you call me. I will end this attempt at causing a pointless war. Naruto told him. Do you not see what I am trying to do? We can become the most powerful race and no one will be able to stop us. You disgust me. Naruto sneered. You would kill millions just for your crazy war obsession. It matters not. I figured this would happen. So I will be taking my leave. With the snap of his fingers, smoke exploded around him and he teleported away. Damn. Naruto clenched his fists. He turned to his comrades and saw they were struggling. Within seconds he was with them. That was the moment the civil war ended. Naruto killed 2 of the 3 remaining Satan descendants on his own. You would think that after all his accomplishments and respect that others showed him, Naruto's life would be great. You would be wrong. His parents were congratulating Sirzex on being a huge help with the war, saying that his strength with the power of destruction saved them all. That didn't matter to Naruto as long as his people were safe. Then things became worse. The houses that took over when the original Satans died, they decided to have 4 powerful devils to take their names in place. The obvious choices were the ones who had the biggest effect in the war. The problem was that there was 6 total candidates. 2 of the 4 spots were more than likely going to be fulfilled by Ajuka and Falbium as Beelzebub and Asmodeus. The problem was who would take the title of Leviathan and Lucifer. Seraphol and Graphia were the candidates for Leviathan while Naruto and Sirzex for Lucifer. Naruto didn't care for a title though. A title didn't give you strength or power. It showed when humans were able to kill even the strongest of devils without the use of holy weapons. All that mattered was his beloved, Graphia. After the Civil War had ended, many things happened. Ajuka made the evil peace system that would convert any being to be part devil. A chess set that Naruto had received but didn't plan on using it anytime soon. Falbium increased the military training, making them a force to be reckoned with. And Graphia swore her allegiance to Naruto. Naruto turned her down and said if she really wanted to, they could go on a date, as he did not like the idea of having servants. To say they hit it off was an understatement. Many devils were jealous of their relationship because they seemed to be a perfect couple. Girls looked at Graphia in envy, none more than Seraphol, while men just glared at Naruto for having such a beauty by his side. All the devils knew of their relationship, but none ever hated them for their relationship, as they deserved happiness for their efforts in the war. Then the rumor started. Sirzek's Gremory would become Lucifer. The ones who started the rumor were none other than his parents. Backed up by the Bael, as they wanted the title of strongest Mao to be a Bael. Naruto did not care until it changed his life forever. He was headed towards his home that he built on his own for him and Graphia. He had a black box in his hand. It was something very special that Lady Phoenix had helped him pick out for Graphia. He loved her, and she loved him, or that was what he thought when he opened the door and saw what was going on in the living room. His blood boiled. There on the couch was Graphia and Sirzek, going at it like rabbits. He dropped the box with a thud. Graphia heard this and looked at him. Her face turned from one of pleasure to one of horror. She did not mean for this to happen. She didn't mean for any of it to happen. She loved Naruto. Loved. He was her first love. But that love slowly dwindled as she started to find Sirzek attractive. She didn't want him to find out this way. Sirzek was sweating bullets. While he may act like he was better than Naruto in public, he knew Naruto outclassed him many times over. Thus a battle of brothers took place. Naruto blasted Sirzek through his home to the front yard. Sirzek got up quickly and fired of his power of destruction that also alerted the others devils in the underworld intentionally. Naruto evaded it with ease, as he knew how the power of destruction needed a few seconds to charge. Naruto flashed in front of Sirzek, punching him in the cheek with a lightning-infused fist. Electricity coursed through his body as he skidded across the ground. Naruto then jumped in the air before falling and striking him in his gut with his heel. Sirzek sat up from the force, vomiting blood. Naruto stood a few feet in front of him, charging his entire arm with lightning magic. It was so strong that it was changing color from yellow to blue to faint traces of black. By this time every high-standing devil and officials came to the scene. They saw a semi-destroyed house and a beaten and bloodied Sirzek sitting a few feet away from an enraged Naruto. Many gasped at how angry he looked. Naruto was a kind-hearted soul. Even during the war he didn't show this amount of hatred and betrayal? This left many devils confused. None more than the Phoenix, Gremories, Cetres, and Naruto's friends. Naruto ran towards Sirzek with his arm pulled back, intending to punch him through the heart. It would have happened if a pillar of ice appeared in front of Sirzek. It was demolished to bits and pieces as Naruto struck it. He looked next to Sirzek to see Graphia standing there. Why? Naruto screamed with tears falling down his face. Why? Graphia showed very little guilt in facial features. Because I love him. All the devils that gathered were dumbfounded. Who did she love? How long? Graphia looked confused. How long, How long have you been cheating on me with him? Naruto yelled. The devils were shocked. They stood there with their mouths gaping while others looked on with disgust in their eyes. A month, Graphia said. Seraphol was furious. She wanted to kill Graphia. She stole her childhood crush from her and then throws it away for some arrogant man-child. Before she could act, Naruto spoke. I'm done. His red hair covering his eyes. I'm leaving the underworld. You Sirzek are no longer my brother. We may be by blood, but that is it. The only connection I will have with you and our parents is by blood. I've dealt with your bullshit and our parents' favoritism towards you for too long now. But I'm done. I've protected you, helped you, even took the blame for you. But I cannot forgive you for this. We are no longer brothers. Sirzek actually looked sad as the brother he admired when they were kids disowned him. Naruto looked at Graphia. And you? Naruto said. I gave you my heart and soul and you tossed it away. You're nothing but scum. Graphia got wide-eyed. His eyes turned ice cold, colder than hers and Seraphal's ice magic. What he said next were his final words that anyone would hear for a century. I should have killed you when I faced you at Lucifer's castle. He then disappeared in a red flash. The devils were astounded. Never had Naruto wished death on anyone before. Not even angels, fallen angels, or even God during the Great War. He believed everyone deserved to live. Many were sad and upset at what happened. Seraphal was in tears along with Lady Phoenix as they were the closest to him. Lord Phoenix and Ruval, along with the Cetri, Astaroth, and Glacis Alabalas had sad frowns. The Gremories and Bales showed no emotion. Their decision for Lucifer just became much more easier. With Naruto, when he appeared out of his teleportation, he was met to a sight of nothing, a vast sea of rainbow-colored distortions. He turned around as he sensed a presence behind him. For you to be allowed to feel my power must mean you are close to my level. Naruto took in her features. She was a little girl with black hair and what appeared to be gothic Lolita dress. So it was you who messed with my teleportation magic, Ophis. She showed no emotion to him knowing her name. I want you to help me, she stated, and if I say no, you die, she responding showing no traces of emotion. What is in it for me? Power. I have power. I think I'll pass, he responded. She looked upset by his answer. She started to channel power. But, she stopped her attack that she was going to send his way. How about a little wager? She quirked an eyebrow. We have a spar. Spar means no killing blows. If I win, he send me to other dimensions so I can get as far away from this damned world as possible. And if I win? She asked. You pick. He shrugged. She nodded. You had to help me, he nodded. And become my mate. Naruto face planted in the ground. Air? Whatever they were standing on in the void. Naruto looked unsure about it, but that would be better than his relationship that just ended minutes ago. Deal. Before he could say anything else, he had to dodge a blast that would have taken his arm off. I said no killing blows. He yelled. That's why I aimed for your arm. His sweat dropped. Thus began the battle that was felt across the different realms. That was chapter 1, guys. Hope you liked it. Not much happened, but this is the prologue of sorts. Now before you get all mad, I know some of the events didn't happen in the anime, but isn't that what fanfiction is? I changed things up a little. And before you say I tried to steal the Greyfiat cheating on Naruto from Soul Reaper Crew's story Fire and Ash, I did not. I got the idea from him, but I am giving full credit to him for that idea. Also, another big thanks to Crowfeast for helping out with this story. Also for letting me use a few of his ideas such as Naruto's grandparents and some peerage members that I will be introducing next chapter. Naruto's peerage will include characters from these animes, High School DxD, Naruto, Akame ga Kill, Rosario plus Vampire, Dragon Ball, and maybe a few others. If you have anyone you would like to see, let me know and I might add them. The sun shined brightly, signifying the start of the day. As it rose, the light crept through the window, falling on a sleeping man's face. The man groaned as he stirred in bed. He opened his eyes, revealing blue, eccentric eyes. He had crimson red hair that matched one Lady Gremory. He looked no older than 21 years old. This was Naruto Gremory, true heir to the house of Gremory. Damn son, ruining my wonderful sleep, Naruto said as he tried to turn, only to stop as he felt weight on his left arm and shoulder. He turned and what he saw made him smile warmly. Laying on his arm, with their head on his shoulder, was a blonde-haired woman. She had twin fox ears on her head that twitched every so often. She had a gorgeous face with a cute little nose and soft pink lips. A set of nice slender shoulders. She had a blanket covering her bare chest, but you could make out her voluptuous body as it hugged her body. She had DD breasts that showed no sag. She looked just as young as Naruto. This woman was Yasaka Gremory, the wife of Naruto Gremory, former ruler of Kyoto. Naruto leaned over, kissing her nose as the blanket fell off him, revealing his lean, toned muscles. Eyelids opened, revealing golden eyes that stared into his blue ones. Morning, my lovely kitsune, he said as he put his forehead against hers, wrapping his arms around her. Good morning, Naruto-kun, she said, snuggling into his embrace. They stayed like this for a few minutes. You know, Yasaka started, we had to get up sooner or later. He just pulled her closer. I just want to stay with you a little while longer. He tightened his hold on her. She then brought out her foxtails and pinned him down, straddling him. Now that wouldn't be right for my king to waste his time in bed all day. She said, revealing all her glory to him. I'm going to take a shower. You can join me if you like, Tilda, she sang. Naruto wasted no time following her to the bathroom to share quality time with his wife and queen. After the shower was done, they were in the room changing into their proper clothes. Naruto wore a blue, long-sleeved jacket over a black t-shirt. He wore black pants that covered the top of his black with white trim shoes. He looked over and saw Yasaka in her usual Miko outfit, with the top being white and bottom red. The only difference was, her bust and rear were too large to fit properly, making her look erotic. Naruto. He shook his head as he saw her standing right in front of him, an angry look on her face. Were you listening to me? Sorry. He chuckled nervously. It's just, your body kept me distracted. I don't know if you're wire with or without clothes. She adorned a blush on cheeks. After all we did last night, you still think like that? She pressed her chest against his. What am I going to do with you, Tilda? She put her face in the crook in his neck, taking in his scent. It was so intoxicating. Before anything could happen, the door was opened by a young girl. This girl had blonde hair just like Yasaka but blue eyes like Naruto. She wore a miniature version of Yasaka's outfit. This was 8-year-old Kuno Gremory, Naruto's and Yasaka's daughter. Daddy, Mommy, she yelled as she ran towards them. As they separated, Kuno jumped into Naruto's arms, wrapping her arms around his neck, hugging him. She unconsciously took in his scent like her mother. Naruto chuckled. Good morning, Kuno-chan. What has you so hyper this morning? She leaned back as he still held her in the air. You promised to train with me and Nei-chan today. She said. I guess I did, didn't I? He just smiled. Fine, we will, but let's go eat breakfast first. Let's go. With that he put her on his daughter on his shoulders and grabbed his wife by her waist, taking them downstairs. He lived in a pretty big house on the edge of Kuo. It was in the forest that surrounded the area. The house was fairly large but not a mansion. It had rooms for all his peerage members, including a few extra just in case some of his acquaintances needed a place to stay the night. Upon entering the dining room, he saw most of his peerage sitting at the table. His sweat dropped. Are you waiting for me to make breakfast, again? He asked. All he received was nods around the table. Sitting at the far end of the table was one of Naruto's knights. She was a blonde-haired girl with golden eyes. She wore a white dress that went to her mid-thighs. It had a blue outline. The dress exposed her back all the way to her rear, with the part covering it being black. Her hair flowing just past her rear. She had perky C-cup breasts. She finished off her attire with blue, thigh-high boots. She looked no older than 18. This was Ise Wallenstein. Sitting to her left was another blonde-haired woman. Her hair was bountiful and flowed down past her rear. Beautiful purple eyes looked at her handheld game. A orange scarf was around her neck. She wore a brown jacket with the sleeves stopping at the start of her biceps. The jacket exposing her midriff. Underneath she wore yellow shirt, only the top being seen covering part of her low D-cup breasts. She had black, fingerless gloves. She also had big yellow bracelet-like things on both her wrists. She had black short shorts that barely covered her rear end but was still covered by her belt skirt that had the front missing and white cloth hanging in the back. She wore brown combat boots that went just below her knees. Her right sock was orange and just above the boot. Her left sock was the same in color but pulled up below her thigh. She had a purple cloth tied below her left knee. This was Naruto's rook, Yang Xiaolong. Across from her on the other side of the table was the next member of Naruto's peerage. She had light blonde hair, almost white-looking. She had light blue eyes. She wore a light purple, formal schoolish-looking uniform, with white at the collar and partly down to her large D-cup breasts. A blue bow tied at the base of it. A purple skirt matching her top. She wore thigh-high white socks. She looked around 18 years old. This was Elizabeth Mobley, his second knight. Next to Yang sat one of his bishops. She had black hair with a pair of cat ears on her head. Her hair split in the middle while she wore a headband. She wore a revealing black kimono, showing her massive D-cup breasts, tied with a yellow obi with golden beads. This was Kuroka, one of the last two Nekosho the universe had. To Elizabeth's left sat his other rook. This woman had pink hair that parted in the front. She had a red bow on top of her head. She wore a black, Victorian-styled dress that made her look elegant that accentuated her DD-cup breasts. This was Akasha Bloodriver. Her green emerald eyes stared at the girl to her right. This girl had silky silver hair. One strand sticking out was red like his. Her eyes scarlet. She had a black blouse held up by two white straps on her shoulder. She also had a fang partly sticking out the side of her mouth, making her look 10 times cuter. She was the same age as Kuno. This was Mocha Gremory, Naruto's second and youngest daughter. He looked around and saw the rest of the seats were empty as he made his way to Akasha after leading his wife to her seat and sitting Kuno down next to Mocha. The two started talking about what they were going to learn from their father in training today. Naruto leaned down to Akasha and kissed her on the lips. It was a sweet and loving kiss. Are the others still out on their assignments? He asked, wrapping his arms around her shoulders. Yes. They said they will be back tonight, possibly tomorrow morning. Akasha said, leaning into Naruto's embrace. He then unwrapped his arms from her. So, who wants pancakes? Everyone in the room drooled at the thought of him making his godly pancakes. He laughed at their expressions. Young eyes, would either of you like to give me a hand? Naruto asked. I would, but you and Yasaka-chan kept me up with all the yawning you guys were doing tilde eh? Yang said, wiggling her eyebrows. She was answered with everyone facepalming, even Kuno and Mocha. Naruto just let out an amused chuckle. He loved Yang for this. No matter how many times this happened, she never stopped. She would always be herself. Well, eyes, care to join me in the kitchen? She nodded and got up from her chair as she followed him to the kitchen. He appreciated times like these, where he didn't have to worry about anything other than his peerage, or as really called them, his real family. Everybody trusted one another. No one held any secrets about themselves. There wasn't a single thing that no one knew about each other. The trust was completely on another level. That also meant they knew of his past. He told them everything before they joined his peerage. His entire life story and how he got to where he was today. Which they all cried and apologized even though they couldn't do anything. After that, they happily joined him considering he did save them, kind of. He really needed to thank Ophis for that even if she would show no emotion. He shook his head of these thoughts as he noticed his pancakes were finished, with eyes finishing up with the bacon and eggs. After they had their breakfast, they all split up to do their own thing. Eyes to work on her swordsmanship. Akasha to increase her abilities. Yang to go destroy some dummies with Ember Celica. Elizabeth to train in her speed. Yasaka probably went to go talk on the phone with the new leader of Kyoto. And Kuroka went to go spy on her little sister. Naruto and his adorable little daughters went to the backyard, which was basically the forest in Kuo. He had put a barrier around it that only Mao would be able to detect, and that was only if they were inches away from it. He turned and faced his daughters. Now, to begin your torture, he said with a glint in his eye. They both had confused faces. Don't you mean training Oto Usama? Mocha asked. His smile grew bigger. Nope. Today I will be having you do physical training, he said as he watched their faces turn to frowns. Hey, don't get all sad on me. Do you think I got as strong as I was without physically training? They shook their heads. Good. No, I want you to run 10 laps around the perimeter of the barrier. They look horrified. Their barrier covered 20 miles of the forest. After we can take a break and then we can do some push-ups and sit-ups. They deflated. Don't be like that. Maybe when we're done I could take you out for some ice cream. They instantly cheered back up and started to run before he stopped them. Mocha, he stated, do you want to pass out? She looked confused for a second before he realized what he meant. She had pink dust her cheeks. Naruto smiled at her as he got down on one knee and tilted his head, exposing his neck. Mocha walked up to him and looked at his neck. She saw 2 puncture marks on his neck. This was where her mother marked him as her mate. She shook her head and quickly bit into his neck, sucking his blood. She sighed at the blissful taste that overloaded her senses. She continued to drink his blood for a few more moments before letting go and licking the blood off her fangs. Kuno just pouted at what she saw. Mocha always did that with their father. It's not that she was jealous, she just wanted to do the same thing as Mocha always seemed to like it. It totally wasn't because she was jealous. Now, Naruto said, snapping both of them out of their own worlds. Let's get started. With that he took off lightly, jogging so they could keep up. Issei picked himself up off the ground and dusted off his clothes. He then ran his hand through his hair to get it back to its natural, disheveled look. The reason? He just got left behind by his friends to get pounded by the kendo club. He was upset. He didn't even get to peek at anyone. All he wanted to do was peep on some girls. Was that so bad? He stopped his movements when he felt someone was watching him. He looked up and saw he was next to the old school building. Up in the window was Rias Gremory, one of the two great Oni-samas. She had crimson-red hair that slightly parted on her forehead, one strand sticking up in the front of her head, her beautiful blue-green eyes, her massive bust that her uniform helped accentuate. He had a bit of a nosebleed as he stared at her chest. He then ran towards class as he heard the bell ring. Tilda, does Rias have a thing for perverts? Said a voice. Rias turned to see her queen, Akeno Himejima. She wore the same uniform Rias did, but hers had the optional cape. Akeno had ebony-colored hair that went down to her legs tied with an orange ribbon. She also had sizable assets. Almost as big as Rias. Almost. Rias would never admit someone was larger than her. No, Akeno. He is the one with the sacred gear, remember? Rias said, slightly peeved. No need to get upset about it, bucko. Akeno smirked. Unless you have a thing for perverts. Rias just huffed and went to her desk. I think the Fallen are making their move. Kaneko said she saw the one using the alias, Yum, following him to school today, Rias said. Akeno went quiet and slightly clenched her hands. Rias adorned a sad expression at her friend's turmoil. The Fallen was always a touchy subject with her. What will you do? Akeno asked, finally getting over her grief. Nothing. When they kill him, he will more than likely be willing to join to save his life. I will have my familiar give him a summoning flyer. Rias answered. Tilda, aren't we a little confident? Do you really think that his last thoughts would be of you? Akeno chuckled. Of course. Rias flipped her hair. Why wouldn't he? I am the great Oni-sama, after all. She said, puffing out her chest. Silence. Then burst into laughter, enjoying this moment while it lasted. Little did Rias know that her actions would change things on a universal scale. He couldn't freaking believe it. He of all people got a girlfriend. And he wasn't the one to ask. Yuma Amano. That was the girl who asked him out once school ended and he was heading home. She was so cute when she stuttered. And those breasts. If he was lucky, he would be able to touch them after their date this Sunday. Wait, Sunday. Today was Friday. That meant he had to wait a whole day till he had a chance to touch those lovely breasts. Issei slumped his shoulders and walked home upset, never noticing golden eyes looking at him retreating home. HMPH. Naruto would love to hear that that perverted fallen angel finally decided to deal with this sorry excuse of a sacred gear wielder. With that, she summoned a teleportation circle as night fell over the city of Kuo. Naruto was currently lounging on his sofa in the living room watching TV. Yasaka was on his right, snuggling into him as Akasha was on his left doing the same. Both his daughters on his lap as they were entranced with the TV show. Mocha with a bit of a blush. Naruto smiled as he saw this. He loved when he could embarrass Mocha. She tried so hard to be mature and proper that it made Naruto want to mess with her more. When he could get her flustered, he couldn't help but love her unconditionally. Kuno was his other pride and joy. She was older than Mocha by a month, though she never acted like it, which was fine by Naruto as they were still kids. He loved seeing her act her age, though she did get out of hand with pranking when a whisked woman was near. He really loved both his daughters. He took satisfaction in knowing that he made them, of course not without the help of the women currently snuggling with him. He then turned around when he felt a teleportation circle appear behind him. In a brief flash, the woman with golden eyes stepped out. She, like most of his peerage, had blonde hair. She had a white scarf around her neck and black top that covered her breasts, exposing the top of her breasts and shoulders along with her toned stomach. On each arm she had a gold bracelet around her biceps with a white sleeve going down to her wrists. She had a bronze belt with a silver circle buckle on top of black underwear. Naruto wasn't sure what they were till this day. She had white puffy pants attached to the belt, with the thigh parts missing, tucked into her knee-high boots. This was Leonie, one of Naruto's pawn. Naruto looked at her and she nodded, signaling she had finished her mission. Naruto nodded in understanding before turning to the girls in his lap. Kuno-chan, Mocha-chan, time to go to bed. Both girls moaned. But Daddy Tilda. Kuno said in a cute whine. It's not even late yet. Mocha nodded in agreement. Both their mothers smiled at the interaction Naruto was having with their children. If you don't go to bed, I won't tuck you guys in and you can forget about my goodnight kisses. Naruto warned. Both girls gasped as Akasha smirked. Naruto was the only one to get Mocha to drop her mature act and be a kid. Both girls jumped off his lap and scrambled over each other, going to their shared room. You spoil them too much, Naruto-kun. Yasaka said, standing up from the couch. Akasha nodded her head following Yasaka. Well, they are my daughters. It is my right to spoil them. After all, they are just like you, Tilda. They both mock-pouted before he kissed them both on the lips, going to the dining room, them following, where Leone went. Sitting at his table were the rest of his peerage from this morning. With Yang, Leone, and Aiz on one side and Kuroka and Elizabeth on the other side. Naruto took his seat at the end of the table with Akasha and Yasaka taking seats on either side of him. What's your report, Leone? Well, it seems that the Fallen are going through with killing the pervert. Leone started. The fallen angel Rainier is using the alias, Yuma Amano, to trick the boy into thinking she likes him. She confessed she had feelings for him and got him to agree to go on a date with him. She finished. Naruto just facepalmed. I can't believe how desperate the kid is. He has never met this, Yuma, and didn't even think twice about anything being suspicious. Naruto couldn't comprehend the idiocy of perverts. He also couldn't believe that some of the most powerful beings were perverts. Azazel being an open one while the others being closet perverts. The original 4 Satans from what he remembered were closet pervs. Do you think we should watch the date Sunday, Nya tilde? Kuroka asked. Naruto thought about it for a second before shaking his head. Azazel said that the fallen he had here were very capable besides only having 1 pair of wings each. We'll trust his judgment, Naruto answered. I don't really care as long as I don't have to watch the pervert anymore. Leone said, stretching in her chair. There's only one man that I wouldn't mind being a pervert, Tilda, she said, looking at Naruto. He groaned as his peerage laughed or giggled at his misfortune. What about your little sister? Elizabeth asked. Her and the sea-tree heir have no doubt sensed the boy has a sacred gear. If it wasn't for it being a Longinus, you wouldn't be able to sense anything coming from the kid, considering he has absolutely no aptitude in magic. He would make a very disappointing devil. Yang mused. Yes, he is very weak. Aiz agreed. Naruto couldn't help but let a small smile come to his face as he watched his family interacting with each other. Well, Azazel said that he was going to have Rainier bring the boy to his base to study his boosted gear. Naruto said. It will also keep that brat Valley from going battle crazy with his true rival. That boy is worse than your pawn when she gets heated in the middle of a battle. Yasaka chimed in. I agree. I think he may be exactly like his grandfather in his battle craziness. Akasha added. Naruto just nodded in agreement. Seemed that there were a lot of battle-hungry bastards in the world. Naruto was shook out of his thoughts when a yellow toad jumped on his table. Naruto looked at it for a few seconds along with everyone else. The yellow toad just looked Naruto in the eyes before giving a peace sign. In seconds the toad was replaced in smoke that covered up the group at the table. They coughed while waving a hand in the air to get rid of the smoke. Once it cleared, they saw a young woman standing on the table. She had long silky red hair, a shade or two lighter than Naruto's. She had it tied in twin pigtails. She had cerulean blue eyes that were similar to Naruto's. On each cheek she had 3 whisker-like marks that made her look like a fox. She wore a black and orange jacket that went to her thighs. The top zipped down just enough to reveal the top of her large C-low D-cup breasts. Under her jacket she wore black short shorts similar to Yang's. She wore black ninja-style sandals. This girl was Narumi Uzumaki, Naruto's pawn, ×3 to be exact. Narumi looked around, standing on the table, and saw some of her fellow peerage members were coughing from her summoning smoke. She scratched the back of her head and smiled sheepishly. Sorry about that. My summons like to play pranks time to time. She spoke. That's fine, Narumi-chan, Naruto said after getting over the smoke. His was Kyoto? Hopefully your partner has been doing a good job in keeping the place standing? He asked. It was a great stay. Yasaka-chan, you have a lovely homeland there. It was so beautiful and the nature energy coming from there was so serene. Narumi said warmly. Also, Kurama has been doing a good job. He's just being a big pervert. While I was there all I could hear was him and Nibby going at it while I tried to sleep. Naruto just sighed as that just proved that most powerful beings were pervs. So, did I miss anything while I was gone? Narumi asked. Not much. Leone, fill her in will ya? When he received a nod, he got up and went to his daughter's room with their mothers attached to his arms. Upon entering their room he saw they were in Kunu's bed looking at photo album of Naruto and their mothers. Ahem. Naruto cleared his throat. They both looked up and saw their parents. What do you have there, Masumi? Yasaka asked. We were looking at the pictures of you guys and daddy. Kuno said. Can you tell us how you all met? Kuno said with sparkling, pleading eyes. Naruto just chuckled at her expression. Some other time, Kuno-chan. It's time for bed. Mocha got up and went to her bed across from Kunu's. Akasha followed her while Naruto and Yasaka went to Kunu's. Yasaka tucked her in as Naruto gave her a kiss on her forehead. Night, Kuno-chan, Masumi. Both parents said. Kuno smiled and closes her eyes. Naruto then went to Mocha's bed as Yasaka went to stand by the door. Akasha smiled as Naruto got to Mocha's bed and tucked her in. He planted a kiss on her forehead. Good night, Mocha-chan. Naruto whispered to her. She closed her eyes and smiled. Good night, Otou-sama, Okawa-sama. With that she drifted off into the land of dreams. As Naruto and Akasha left the room, Yasaka was standing in the hallway waiting for them. So I guess it's time for us to hit the hay, Naruto said. Akasha just smirked. That's sweet, Naruto-kun tilde, she said sweetly. To have your way with Yasa-chan last night and not even coming to get was very rude of you. Naruto gulped. His lovers had a sort of rivalry where they didn't want him doing something without the other there. Now, she said as she breathed on his ear. Let's go to bed, but first. Akasha lowered her mouth to his neck. I quick drink. Chew tilde. She sank her fangs into his neck and moaned as he sighed and picked her up, carrying her to their room while smacking Yasaka's rear end as he passed her. Yasaka just smiled seductively and followed him. They wouldn't get much sleep tonight. He didn't know what he did to bring this upon himself. Things were going great up until a few seconds ago. He had finally got a date after taking many beatings from peeping. She was a total 10 in the breast department in Issei's book, but anything bigger than AC was a 10 to him. The date went well. They had lunch, went to an arcade, and he even got her a scrunchie. Then she had asked that question. Could you repeat that? Issei asked. Yuma's smile turned from a happy one to a sinister one. Could you die for me? She stepped back towards the fountain and a bright light enveloped her. Her clothes disappearing, giving Issei a full look at her appearance. Gone was her frilly dress and now replaced with a S&M style leather piece that just covered her S and genital regions that was connected together. Black, feathered wings protruded out of her back. I'm really sorry that I had to kill a pathetic human like you, but you are too dangerous for your own good. Yuma said with her sweet voice now gone, replaced by one of a full-grown woman. If you want to blame someone, blame God for putting that thing inside of you. She said as she formed a light spear and threw it at Issei. Before you die, it wouldn't be right if you didn't know the name of your killer. My name is Rainier, not Yuma, the now named Rainier said. Issei was frozen solid. He couldn't move for the life of him. Gone was his adorable girlfriend. Now it was a woman that totally put Yuma to shame. Issei couldn't shout in pain as the light spear pierced his stomach. He fell on his back as blood pooled around him. I'm really glad Donasek told me that Kokabiel said his sacred gear wasn't need. I would have hated to touch this pervert. Rainier said as she flew away. Damn, Issei thought as he choked on blood. I never even got the chance to touch her breasts. They were almost as Ria's breasts. The perv thought, what I wouldn't give to touch her breast, was the last thought Issei had before his pocket glowed and a red circle appeared next to him as he lost consciousness. What? Yelled a furious Naruto if his scowling face was any indication. He's still alive? Yes. Apparently the fallen didn't take him and your sister revived him after she killed him. Spoke a soft voice. Her voice was soft but showed no fear when Naruto yelled. Mostly because he wasn't upset with her, just at the situation. She was a girl who looked to be around the age of the rest of her peerage members. She had black hair that looked like it could be a very dark purple. She had big hazel-colored eyes. She wore a black hairband with 2 strands of hair sticking out the top looking like a pair of antennae. She wore a black vest-like top that left the sides and middle of her breasts exposed. The sleeves connected to it from below her shoulders, covering her down to her hands. Her dress was connected to her top, with purple lining on the bottom. She had a petite build, something no one else in the house had. But her most noticeable feature was the massive black and pink fairy, butterfly-like wings coming out of her back. This was Kuroyuki, or Kuroyuki for short. She was the other bishop in Naruto's peerage. Damn it, Naruto cursed. It had been 2 days since Issei's date and supposed death. The reason he found out was because he felt another supernatural entity in the area yesterday and had Kuroyuki find out who it was. Kuroyuki had returned on the night of Issei's date. She was in the underworld with another one of his pawns doing reconnaissance on the remaining pillars and mouths. Damn Azazel, what was he thinking? He said he had a Longinus. Naruto took a deep breath and calmed down. Is what you said true? Naruto asked in his normal even tone. She nodded. He has gotten impatient and plans to come to the human world to force Rias into marriage. Kuroyuki responded. So Riser is sick of waiting for the marriage to happen then. Naruto ran a hand through his crimson locks. I guess I have to make my return sooner than expected. He looked at Kuroyuki. You can go rest up. You did a good job. You earned it. She smiled with pink dusting her cheeks at the sincere praise. She nodded and left her room. Thank you, she said before she left. You can come out now, Blake, Naruto said. Said girl tripped from around the corner where she was waiting for his conversation to end. Blake was a stunning beauty. Her ebony-colored hair. She had yellow eyes similar to Kuroka's. She wore a white blouse with a black vest over it. She had black, purple thigh-highs. She wore black combat boots with heels on them. She also had a black bow on her head. Blake, Naruto said. Blake stopped and flinched. Take it off. You know I don't like when you hide them and I know you wish you could show them all the time. Blake didn't move for a few seconds. She finally reached up and undid the ribbon on her head, revealing 2 black cat ears. See, isn't that better? Blake nodded slightly and calmed down. So, what did you need to talk about? I wanted to know if there was any more missions you needed done. Well, I have a few, but most of them I need to do personally. Naruto stated. Check back with me in a day or 2. I'm pretty sure something will come up with the way everything has gone to shit. She nodded. Now take a break. I know that you worked hard with Kuroyuki-chan. Relax and take it easy. Something tells me we are going to be ready for something. Blake bowed and disappeared. Naruto was going to head to his room before he heard a knock. What is it now? He groaned. Naruto approached the door and as he grabbed the doorknob did realize who it was. He opened it. Yo, what's up Naru? He never finished as Naruto punched him in the nose, breaking it if the crunch was any indication. Ow, what the fuck? Screamed the man. He was holding his bleeding nose. That's for telling Rainier not to bring in Issei's dead body. My little sister revived him, Azazel. Naruto yelled. The now known Azazel just let go of his nose, showing that it was healed. Perverts were resilient. That wasn't me, he claimed. It was, he started but went quiet at the end. What was that? Speak up, ya perverted old fool. I said Donasek told her not to bring him in. He said the sacred gear was a useless one. Naruto looked furious. Useless? What idiot would believe that? The gears are from God himself. None are useless, he told him. What possessed him to say that? Azazel just took a deep sigh and started channeling magic to his body. He didn't want to be a pile of mush when he tells Naruto what he was keeping secret. It was Kokebiel. He went rogue a week ago. He took some of the other fallen with him that didn't like the way things were going. Donasek was one of them. Though I only found this out when Middle briefed me on the incident. Azazel didn't continue as steam was coming off the top of Naruto's head. You mean to tell me, he said through clenched teeth, that Kokebiel went rogue and you kept this a secret from me and the other factions? Azazel just nodded slowly. What next? He's working with rogue church members? Azazel, yes? He's working with rogue church members, isn't he? Azazel gulped. Yes, you're dead. The next half hour, all you could hear throughout the house was a perverted fallen angel's screams. Now, Naruto said after beating Azazel. His peerage members around him after hearing all the commotion. Anything else you want to tell me, Azazel? Azazel picked himself up off the floor and dusted his clothes off. The only indication of him being hit was a bump on his head. Well, Kokebiel had it fixed so a girl by the name of Asia Argento would be sent here. She was a nun that got excommunicated for healing a devil. That made everyone's blood boil. Why would she get kicked out if she was kind enough to heal a devil? Donasek plans to rip out her sacred gear. Naruto gave him a questioning look. She has twilight healing, able to heal anyone no matter what race they are. What does this have to do with me then? Naruto asked. Well, apparently your sister's new recruit has developed a personal bond with this girl. Donasek ended up taking her away while they were hanging out together today. Naruto clenched his fists. He knew what was coming. He went to go and save her. Your dear little sister played him and said he couldn't go save her knowing her would disobey her. Azazel said. She let her knight and rook go with him, while she and her queen provide backup and deal with my kin that are to keep watch during the ceremony. Naruto just groaned. Everything just got worse. Alright, Naruto said sighing. I get it. You want me to deal with my sister, right? Azazel nodded. Fine, but you owe me for this. Also, we get to end Donasek if he resists capture. Fine with me. Just let the innocent ones go. As for the exorcists, I'm all for women but I'm not a fan of rape. They can die for all I care. Azazel stated. I'll be off then. As he got to the door, he stopped. By the way, you might want to make haste. Issei left a few minutes ago. Azazel then spread his wings and flew away. Damn, Naruto curse. Leone, Narumi, go take care of the church. They nodded and disappeared. Kuroyuki, Blake, I need you to find out exactly when Riser will be here. Hi, they said before they disappeared. He then started walking towards his room. Where are you going? Yasaka said. I need to get ready. I plan to meet some people about this marriage contract. He said as he ascended up the stairs. Issei was dumbfounded. He had made his way to the church with Kaneko and Kiba. That crazy exorcist Freed was waiting for them and Kiba stayed behind to fight him. Kaneko and Issei made it to the basement where there were dozens of exorcists and Donasek stood on and with Asia tied to it. Donasek then removed her sacred gear, killing her in the process. In a fit of rage, Issei attacked Donasek but the experience barrier was clearly visible by miles. They ended up in the main hall with Issei bleeding from every limb. Just as a light spear was about to hit him, a wall of sand appeared in front of him. Who dares interfere with me? Yelled Donasek. That would be us. Donasek looked behind him and saw a blonde with lion-like ears, tail, and yellow fur-covered fists. Next to her was a girl with reed hair and an orange pigmentation around her eyes. Who are you? He yelled. None of your business. Just some people Azazel sent to take care of you. Narumi said. Donasek just chuckled. That old fool. He believes peace is achievable. It never will be. That is why I joined Kokebiel. To fight worthy opponents. Leone just smirked. And how are you going to do that? You only have one set of wings. What if you run into a Mao? He snarled. With this sacred gear in my possession, I can overcome the Maos and God himself. He proclaimed. Oh really? Narumi said. She then stuck her hand out and formed a blue sphere. She then went faster than anyone could see besides Leone. Rasengan, Narumi yelled as she slammed the ball in his chest. That was the scene that Rias and Akeno walked in on, Kaneko and Kiba doing the same but from the basement. Aj, Donasek screamed as he coughed up blood when he made an indent in the wall. You bitch, cough, I'll kill you for that, he said. He then tried to heal the bleeding hole in his chest but saw it was barely faster than his natural healing. What? Why isn't it healing? That would be the power of Senjutsu. Narumi said and Kaneko froze. That attack was powered with nature chakra. Something you can't use or comprehend. Donasek went to say something before Narumi appeared in front of him. Now, may you rest in peace, or pieces. She slammed a Rasengan against his head, forcing it to explode all over the wall. I'll take those. Narumi then grabbed the sacred gear from his fingers and put them in her pouch. Who are you and what are you doing on Gremory territory? Rias said stepping up. Listen princess, Leone started, we were sent here to deal with the fallen traitor over there and now that we're done, we will be on our way. What are you? Rias asked. The same thing as you. Who is your king? She demanded more than asked. We can't tell you that, Oju-sama. Leone shot back. So you're strays. Leone and Narumi just smiled not answering. Kiba, Kaneko, deal with them. They nodded and went to attack Naruto's peerage members. You sure it's wise to attack us after the beating you took from some weak exorcists? They didn't stop. I warned you. As Kiba drew his sword and swung it, everyone froze. Leonie stuck out her hand and grabbed it. Sword birth, she said. Neat. She clenched her hand, shattering the sword. She then punched Kiba in the jaw, breaking it and sending him into the wall. He went unconscious from the punch. She ducked to avoid a leg kick from Kaneko. Leonie put her palms on the ground and pushed herself off the ground, kicking Kaneko with both feet hitting her chest. She went flying before stopping a few feet from Rias. Rias was about to join before Narumi spoke. Don't you have a girl to revive? Rias stopped and looked at her. I would, but you still have her sacred gear. I need it. Narumi just laughed. You can revive her without it. Unless you are just greedy and the whole reason behind this attack on the church was to get the twilight healing. Rias froze as Narumi stated the entire reason she let Issei come. Bucko. She turned and saw Issei weeping over a dead Asia. She's lying, right? You're still going to revive her without the sacred gear still, right? This wasn't just to get her power, right? Rias cursed the redhead in front of her. She couldn't just go reviving everyone. Issei already took all her pawns. But maybe she would still be a good healer after having a sacred gear that healed people anyways. I will, Issei, Rias said as she went over to him and placed a bishop on her chest. She turned to look at the two devils, but they were gone. She sighed. Issei just seemed to attract unseated attention. Man, it's been over a century since I've been here, Naruto said, staring at gates with a bird that looked to be on fire on them. Well, better get going. He made a teleportation circle to go into the house. He stepped out of the circle and saw the two people he needed to see. Yo, he said before a voice behind him called his name. Naruto? He turned. Shit. When he turned, he saw someone who was the last person that he wanted to see. For it had been over a century since he seen her, and over that time, with the help of Yasaka, learned that the person he was looking at had strong feelings for him. He gulped. Hey, how have yo? He never finished as they tackled him to the ground. Their face in his chest as tears streamed down their face. Is that really you, Naruto-kun? Are you really here? Naruto just wrapped his arms around them. Yes, Sarah-chan, it's me, he said with a small smile. The now revealed Seraphal just hugged him tighter, fearing he would disappear. It's been a while, Naru-chan. Naruto looked up and saw the people that he came to see. Yes, it has Phoenix-sama. All he received was a glare that caused him to sweat. I mean Layla Ka-chan. The glare instantly disappeared and was replaced with a warm smile. Naruto, my boy, where have you been? Naruto looked next to Layla to see her husband and leader of the Phoenix clan, Raiji Phoenix. A little here and there. Mostly gathering my peerage, Naruto said as he stood up with Seraphal still clinging to his chest. Sarah-chan, you can let go now. She shook her head. I won't. I'm afraid this is a dream, and if I let go, you will disappear and I won't be able to see you again. His heart clenched. He hated to cause the people he cared about pain. It's okay, I'm not going to leave again. He grabbed her chin to make her look at him. I promise. She just stared in his eccentric blue eyes and found no traces of lies or deceit, but still didn't let go. Naruto sighed and sat down on one of the couches with Seraphal sitting next to him, almost on his lap, still clinging to him. So, Raiji started, what brings you here, Naruto? Naruto adopted a serious expression. I'm here to talk to you guys about the marriage contract. The Phoenix just gained saddened expressions. I'm sorry, but there is nothing we can do about it, Layla said. We didn't want to do it, but we needed to repopulate the Devil Clan, and we would be looked down on by the elders if we refused from such a prestigious family such as the Gremories. Yes, I know all too well how the elders favor the Gremories, considering they are mostly Bales now, Naruto said with venom. Raiji spoke up. But even you can't break the contract. It was made non-breakable by the elders and us at the time. Raiji then smiled sadly. Plus, Riser would not like that we wanted to end the agreement. I don't know where he got his perversions from or arrogance, but I guess his name and powers got to his head. Naruto hummed and thought. That's right, you had 2 more children after I left. Riser was your 3rd child, and the 4th one is the one listening into this conversation. Eep. A squeak was heard from the hallway connected to the room they were in. Layla just smiled. You got careless, daughter. Come on in since you have been here the whole time now. The door opened and in stepped a beautiful blonde, slightly younger looking version of Layla. She had blonde hair with drill-like curls on each side of her head. She had dark blue eyes. Her initial outfit consisted of a light purple dress with dark purple accents and a blue bow at the front. At the back, 3 feather-like extensions mimicking a bird's tail protrude from the dress, which, when combined with her wings of fire, give her a bird-like appearance. "Honey, please introduce yourself to our guest here." Layla smiled. Revel looked at Naruto with Serafal still clinging to him. The tears seemed to calm down some. She bowed. "Hello Naruto-sama. My name is Revel Phoenix, 16 years old, 4th child of the Phoenix family and my brother's bishop." Naruto frowned. "Please, never call me Sama. I am not one to care for such titles. They mean nothing at all and is just a piece added to one's name." Revel was dumbfounded. A devil not wanting to be shown respect? What kind of guy was he? People would jump for joy if someone called them that. Her father noticed the confusion on her face and explained. "You see Revel, Naruto doesn't like titles as they tend to go to people's head. He saw what it did to his brother and didn't want the same to happen to him. Since he was just a child, he never used such titles for anyone, including the old Satans, and they got a kick out of it." Revel's jaw hit the ground. "He only used the proper titles when we were at war, when we had peaceful talks with other factions." If you don't mind, who is your brother?" Revel asked. Before Naruto answered, Layla spoke. "I think Naruto wants to keep his name secret for now, otherwise he would have made a flashy entrance." Naruto just smiled sheepishly. "You know me so well, Ka-chan." Naruto then relaxed a bit. "But it is fine, since she might be involved after I take a look at the marriage contract." "Are you sure?" Serafal finally said. "Things will become hectic when people find out you're alive and back in the underworld. I plan on making an entrance in a few weeks anyways, considering Riser is planning to push this marriage sooner." The Phoenix family just frowned at their irrational son, brother. "To answer your question, Revel, my brother is Searsex Lucifer, formerly Gremory." Revel gasped. "You're related to Lucifer-sama? But I only thought that Rias-sama was his only sibling." Revel shouted. He chuckled. "Yes, that would be what the younger generation believes. You see, I am his older twin." Again Revel was dumbfounded. "You have never heard of me because he made the older devils swear secrecy of my existence from the devils that didn't know who I was. You may know most of my story. I am the character in the history books as the Crimson Flash." Naruto said as Revel almost fainted. The Crimson Flash, the devil who was able to teleport hundreds of devils in seconds during the Great War. The same one who killed 2 Satan's children during the Civil War? The fastest devil to ever live? Revel asked flabbergasted. Naruto nodded. "The same one," he said as Serafal hugged him harder as she saw the question that Revel was about to ask. "Why did you leave?" Layla spoke. "Revel, I don't think you show." Naruto cut her off. "It's fine, Ka-chan. She is family after all." Naruto smiled sadly. "Revel, what do you know of Searsex and Graphia's relationship?" "Well, during the Civil War, Graphia-sama was fight for the old faction and Lucifer-sama was able to get her to join our side. Then after the Crimson Flash, or you, left, did Searsex made her his queen and later married. The Romeo and Juliet story. True love at first sight." Revel said. "Well, you see, only parts of that story is true. They also missed very important details." Naruto sighed and ran his hand through his hair. "I was the one who got Graphia to join our side. We then began our relationship that almost all devils at the time knew of. Then, on my way home from getting an engagement ring that your mother helped me pick out, I found her and Searsex going sleeping together in my own home." Naruto finished as he clenched his fists. He didn't care for either of them or his parents that just went along with what happened. But talking about it always made him angry over their betrayal. He calmed down when he felt Serafal rubbing his back. Revel, meanwhile, was very depressed. She had always thought that she would find someone the way they did. Have a knight come save her and fall in love. Now she knew it was a lie. True love at first sight was just a lie. That was the day I left the underworld. Without even saying goodbye to anyone, as I just wanted to get out of hell. Oh, the irony. I didn't even say bye to your parents or even my best friend, your older brother, Ruvel. You know Onisama? He nodded. He was like my other brother. Now my only brother. Revel just gaped. Now, to get back to why I came here, the contract. Raiji nodded before leaving and returning with the marriage contract in his hands. The next hour or two was left discussing the plans for annulling or changing the contract. It wasn't until Naruto read a specific part that his parents wrote. That would be their biggest mistake. Once they were done, Naruto stood up with Sarafal holding onto his arm after finally getting her to let go of his chest. Before anything else could happen, a teleportation circle appeared on the ground. The moment Naruto saw it, he paled and started to hide behind Sarafal the best he could. Out stepped two people. The first was a man who stood just under 6 feet with crimson locks and eyes that matched Naruto's. The other was a woman who also had crimson locks but blue-green eyes. These people were Michael and Liliana Gremory, Naruto's grandparents. "Where is he?" Liliana yelled. Nobody wasted any time and instantly threw Naruto under the bus, pointing where he was hiding behind Sarafal. She marched over to them and for the first time since Naruto got there, Sarafal let him go and moved as far away as she could. Liliana grabbed Naruto by his ear and pulled him up to where he stood almost a foot taller than her. "You are in so much trouble, Naruto Gremory." Naruto, the man who faced danger multiple times, fought against the Archangel Michael and Gabriel when he was only 20, beat Azazel less than a week ago, and killed 2 Maos, just gulped and prayed for his life. The pain from a devil praying was much more welcoming than his grandmother's wrath. "I missed you so much." Liliana pulled him into a bone-crushing hug, letting tears fall, as Michael finally went near Naruto after staying clear of his wife's wrath. Naruto returned the hug and smiled. They were the only family members that actually cared for him that was blood-related when he was younger. "It's been a while, Naruto-kun." His grandfather spoke. "Yes, it has, Oji-san." Naruto said. "Oba-chan, stop crying please. Tears don't fit you, baka," she yelled, letting go of him. She bonked him on the head. "It's your fault I'm crying. You left without even saying anything." Naruto flinched. "I'm sorry. I was hurting and had to get out of this place. I couldn't deal with the betrayal." Naruto replied. "I understand," Michael said, "but a visit or two would have been nice. Or you could have stayed." Liliana voiced. "If you did, I could have had great grandbabies by now," she said with a smile. "Who knows, maybe you and Sarah-chan would make great parents together and give me my great-grandbabies." Both Naruto and Sarafal flushed, though Sarafal had a dreamy look on her face. "Hey, if only you knew I already had children, Obaa-chan." Naruto mumbled. He didn't expect her to hear that but knew he messed up when her aura went dark. "You already had a child?" Liliana screamed. The others were shocked while Sarafal felt her heart clench. "He already had a child. Actually, Obaa-chan, I have 2, he never got to speak more as Liliana slugged him into the wall. Sarafal felt as if her heart was going to break. Liliana went to Naruto and grabbed him by his collar and started to shake him. "You had 2 babies and didn't have the decency to come tell me about it." As she kept shaking him, Naruto looked like a rag doll. Michael felt sorry for his grandson as he was a recipient of that treatment from his wife. Sarafal was going to leave until Liliana spoke. "How could you have kids with someone else when Sarafal has had feelings for you since you were kids? Are you really that dense?" Sarafal almost broke down in tears. "Liliana-sama, please, it's fine. It was too good to be TR," she started before she was cut off. "I'm sorry, Sarah-chan," Naruto said. "I really was that dense. I didn't realize your feelings until Yasakaheim helped me understand your feelings." Everyone froze at that name but Naruto continued. "I can't say I love you as a lover but I do like you more than a friend. I am willing to be in a relationship with you. But you have to be okay with sharing as I have other women in my life as I love equally. If we do try for a relationship, I will love you the same." Sarafal couldn't hold it in anymore. She let her tears fall once more. She ran to him and Liliana moved out the way for her. She wrapped her arms around his neck and cried into his neck, muttering, "Yes." Naruto wrapped his hand around her waist and held her close and smiled. "Naruto," Liliana said in a sickly sweet tone. "Did you say, Yasaka?" He gulped again. "Yes." Michael then asked what his wife wanted to know. "How do you know the leader of Kyoto and Yukai?" He chuckled nervously. "Well, you see, she is the mother of my oldest daughter." Everyone in the room was floored besides Sarafal as she wasn't paying attention to anything else but staying in Naruto's arms. "She is the mother of you, child," yelled the Layla and Liliana. Liliana continued. "How did you get with the leader of all the Yukai? She was one of the first people I met after I left." He explained. Then it dawned on her. Liliana. "Wait, you said, the mother of your first child. Does that mean your second child is from someone else?" She asked. "Yes." Her name is Akasha. She is the mother of my second child. Liliana adorned a terrifying smile. Is there anything else that you would like to tell me? Naruto was sweating bullets. Why didn't they just use his grandmother in the Great War? Her smile would have made Azazel wet himself. Me, Yasaka-chan, and Akasha-chan are all married. Liliana's smile just got even more strained. Naruto, he nodded, take me to my grandbabies. She looked at him that would make the dead roll in their graves. Now, Naruto didn't hesitate and brought them and Serafal to his home. The Phoenix family staying, saying they wanted to make sure the plan for the wedding went smoothly. Yasaka, Akasha, Kuno, and Mocha were all sitting at the dining table eating lunch as the rest of the peerage was training outside or lounging in their rooms. They were having a nice conversation before a teleportation signaled someone coming. When they saw Naruto they smiled and then noticed the women on his arm and two others stand next to him. Mocha and Kuno ran up to him. Daddy, Otou-sama. They yelled as Serafal let go of his arm so he could catch the girls jumping at him. Hello Kuno-chan, Mocha-chan. He kissed their foreheads. You guys haven't gotten into trouble while I was gone, right? Naruto asked with a smile. They nodded their heads. Ahem. Naruto turned to his grandmother and paled at her look. Kuno-chan, Mocha-chan, you see those people over there? They looked where he pointed and nodded. Those are my grandparents and your Oji-san and Obaa-chan. He put them down so they could go meet them. Kuno and Mocha stood in front of Michael and Liliana. Hello, they both said. Michael smiled and Liliana got on one knee to look at them closer. Kuno looked at her. You are really pretty Obaa-chan. Naruto took pity as he knew what was next. Liliana grabbed Kuno and started to squeeze the life out of her. Oh, thank you very much, Kuno-chan. You and your sister are very beautiful yourselves. Mocha had a faint blush while Kuno's face turned red from the lack of air. Dear, perhaps you should put Kuno-chan down before you kill her. Liliana nodded and put her down. Kuno's eyes had swirls in them as she swayed back and forth. Oba-chan is really strong, Kuno said as she struggled to find her balance. Yasaka and Akasha made their way over to their daughters in front of Liliana and Michael. Hello Liliana-sama and Michael-sama. They both greeted. So you two were the mothers of these adorable little children. Liliana said. Yes, Liliana-sama. Liliana frowned. Please, enough with the sama stuff. It makes me feel my age. Yasaka and Akasha giggled as she reminded them of Naruto. Please call me Obaa-chan. After all, you are married to my baka of a grandson. Kuno and surprisingly Mocha giggled as Naruto yelled, hey. Of course, Obaa-chan. They said smiling as Liliana accepted them to the family. Naruto then stepped forward. Kuno-chan, Mocha-chan. Why don't you go and show Oji-san and Obaa-chan your room? They looked at him, excited. Can we show them the pictures too? Kuno asked and Mocha nodded agreeing with her. Naruto chuckled. Yes, you can show them the photo album. Kuno squealed and grabbed her grandparents' hands and dragged them to her and Mocha's room. Mocha followed behind them. Yasaka and Akasha turned to Naruto and Serafal who grabbed his arm again. So, you are the Serafal that Naruto has told us about. Yasaka said. I must say, you are just as beautiful as Naruto described. Akasha followed. Serafal blushed at the thought of Naruto calling her beautiful. Stop teasing her Yasaka-chan, Akasha-chan. Naruto said. We have things to talk about first. You can have girl talk later. He finished as he flared his power a bit to notify his peerage that he needed to talk to them. A second later, the room was filled with his peerage plus his final two pieces that were out on a mission. The first was a young woman in her late teens. She has long blonde hair that runs all the way down to her back with several bangs hanging over her forehead, and sports medium blue eyes. She also wears a blue headband over her hair to keep it in place. She wears a pair of black, semi-rimmed glasses with the rims sitting below the lenses. This is Satellizer Bridget, Naruto's pawn that took two pieces. The other was a girl that has long, straight and shiny purple hair along with a triangular fringe at the front that barely touches the ridge of her nose, and she is also shown to have blue eyes and sizable breasts. She had shiny pink lips that stood out among the other girls in the room. She wears female battle boots with heels, long laced purple stockings, purple gloves, her school uniform top, a skirt that shows the string of her thong and her entire right thigh, and a purple lace bra. This is Seiko Busujima, Naruto's final pawn. They were currently out on missions. Satellizer was dealing with stray exorcists and devils in the town. Seiko was tasked with following up on a lead of the missing Excalibur fragments. Sat-chan, Sei-chan, how did everything go? Satellizer spoke first. I dealt with most strays in the area. There is one that I could not find. He goes by the name of Freed. Naruto nodded and looked at Seiko. I followed the lead you had but didn't find anything besides Valpier being involved. Naruto nodded again. He had an idea after Azazel came and told him Kokebiel went rogue. Good job to the both of you. Once we are done here you guys can rest. They nodded and took their seats with the rest of the peerage. Now, apparently things are going to be getting a lot more hectic around here. He started. Riser has become impatient and will be coming to the human world to advance the marriage with Rias. Now Seraphal is here to help us. She says that Searzex plans to send her to monitor the meeting and hopefully get them to agree to a rating game. Seraphal noticed the hateful and disgusted looks his peerage had at the mention of Searzex and Graphia. Kuroyuki-chan, she looked at Naruto. You will be going to the meeting as another peacekeeper under the ruse of working for Sarah-chan here. Considering the Seatries share the territory provided by the Yukais, they can't kick you out. Make sure no violence takes place as that can make things worse as they are. Also, make sure they keep their mouths shut. That pawn of my Imouto has a filthy mouth and no doubt will set Riser off. Kuroyuki nodded. She will most likely lose as she has been lollygagging in getting and training her peerage. As of now she only has 6 pieces. One of them is locked away due to her not being able to control him. She nodded. Now, let's talk about after the rating game. The wedding, he looked around. I have just visited with the Phoenix family and we have come to a decision. On the wedding day, this is what is going to happen. Rias was furious. She was currently sitting in the ORC room with the rest of her peerage -1. She was about to tell Issei why she was acting weird but Riser had shown up just as she was about to talk about him. She hated his guts. He was a sick pig that wanted nothing more than to have her part of his harem. She tried countless times to cancel the contract but to no avail. That was the main reason why she got Issei. With his sacred gear they had a shot of winning. She just didn't like that he took all her pawns. Now she just needed to challenge him to a rating game and do her best to win. Luckily Graphia was here to make sure things didn't get out of hand as Riser already seemed to get irritated at the way Issei was looking at him. Before anything else could happen, a teleportation circle appeared in the middle of the room. It was red with traces of blue in it. Graphia saw it and couldn't help but feel as if she saw it somewhere before. The red looked like the Gremory circle but the blue overlapped the parts that would have confirmed it being a Gremory teleportation circle. Out stepped a petite girl. Kuroyuki was met with stares from every person in the room. Weird, she actually put her wings away for this meeting. Excuse me, but this meeting is private. So please leave, Graphia said stepping forward. I cannot do that. Kuroyuki replied. I was asked by Seraphal-sama to be a part of this meeting. After all, this is shared territory between the Gremory and Seatry clan that was generously given to them. Before Graphia could respond, Rias spoke. You are sorely mistaken. This has always been devil territory. Rias spoke with a tone of arrogance. Kuroyuki giggled inwardly. You are the one sorely mistaken. If you have done your research or simply paid attention, you would have known that Kuo, along with the rest of Japan, is ruled by the Yukai faction. Rias wanted to call her a liar but Graphia spoke. Rias-sama, what she says is true. When Searzex-sama asked for territory for you and Sona-sama to reside in, they let you guys reside in this town. Rias was shocked. She thought this area belonged to the devils. Graphia then turned to Kuroyuki. So you are part of Seraphal-sama's peerage then? I work for Seraphal-sama, yes. Kuroyuki avoided the question, something Graphia noticed. Can we continue here? Spoke Riser. The sooner Rias-chan accepts this, the sooner I will be gone. Kuroyuki looked at him and was immediately saddened. This man was a phoenix? All he had going for was his regenerative ability if the amount of magic he held was anything to go by. He had about 100 times as much as Issei had. Issei almost had basically zero magic in him if that shows anything. You are sick. Speak of the devil, literally. How can you marry Bucko if you just made out with another girl in front of her? Issei yelled. And you think you are good enough for her? Riser laughed. A low class like you isn't even worthy of kissing the gum stuck on my shoe. Issei growled and summoned his sacred gear. I advise you to stand down, Devil-san. This is supposed to be a peaceful meeting. If you don't, I will be forced to stop you, Kuroyuki said. He then said something that angered a lot of women in the room. Why should I listen to someone with no breasts like you? Even Kaneko has bigger breasts than you and she has some of the smallest breasts I have seen. That lit the match that started the fire. Kaneko went red with anger and Kuroyuki was pissed. Without a second to spare, she summoned her weapon. It was a long tri-bladed scythe. The handle was black with white tape for grip, with the blades being a dark purple. When the light hit it, it glowed, giving off an ominous feeling. Before Issei could blink, Kuroyuki swung the back of her scythe in his gut. He went flying back while spitting up blood. She then brought the scythe above her head ready to pierce his stomach. But an ice wall blocked her strike. I advise you not to do that as I might have to take action against you if you do, Graphia said. Kuroyuki kept a straight face as she put her weapon away. My apologies, but clearly this pervert was clearly raised by animals if he has no respect for women. Or maybe his parents tried their best but he is just a hopeless pervert. She sighed. I'm using that as warning to him and the others. She responded. After all, we are here to keep peace and he was going to take hostile action. She continued. I was given permission to use force if necessary to keep this peaceful. So if you attack me, you indirectly attack Serafal-sama and you remember the last time you guys fought and the reason behind it. Kuroyuki finished in a cold tone. Graphia flinched. She knew exactly what and who she was talking about. She still had the scar that Serafal gave her for what she did. Rias caught it. Now, apparently both sides disagree with each other. Kuroyuki said. The only solution would be a rating game between you two. Do you both accept? I accept, Rias said without hesitation. This was what she has been waiting for. Riser accepts also. The blonde said. I will even give Rias-chan 10 days extra to train. He finished with an arrogant smirk. Good. The rating game will take place in 10 days' time. This meeting is over. Riser and his peerage left, but not before Revel sent a discreet glance at Kuroyuki as she knew she was here because of Naruto. Once they were gone, Kuroyuki turned to Rias. That is all, and I advise you to have full control of your peerage. Not being able to control one of your pieces power us one thing, but one's manner speaks poorly of you and the family you represent. Issei did not take kindly to that. What gives you the right to speak to Bucko like that? She is 10 times the woman you will ever be. Kuroyuki sighed as there was no end to his perversions. You still do not fully understand the situation, pawn. She didn't mean offense as Naruto's pawns were some of the most powerful beings, but she knew that would get under his skin. You may have 8 pieces in you, he smiled smugly, you have no zero aptitude for magic whatsoever. Your sacred gear is the reason why you needed all those pieces. And while you have the boosted gear, 0 times 100 is still 0. Issei instantly deflated and Kaneko inwardly smirked as the pervert was outdone. I will now take my leave. With that, Kuroyuki teleported back to Naruto's home. Graphia, who was that? Rias asked. She shook her head. I have no idea, but I plan on finding out. It had been 10 days since the meeting between Rias and Riser. To say the match was disappointing would be farther than the truth. Rias was actually able to eliminate most of Riser's peerage but at the cost of most of hers. In the end it was Rias and Issei against Riser and Yubaluna. It would have been an interesting showdown, if Issei wasn't an idiot. He charged Riser planning to take him out, but his body was exhausted from using his perverted sacred gear attack. Diedrich must be humiliates from having a pervert as a partner. Issei fell down right in front of Riser. Riser then grabbed Issei and threatened Rias to give up or he would kill Issei, saying deaths happened in raiding games all the time. But that was all accidental deaths. If Riser went through with it, he would have been stopped right before he could kill him. Not that Rias knew that. The only reason why he was able to say something like that was because a raiding game is like a game of chess. It wasn't just who had the best or strongest pieces. You had to outsmart or trick your opponent. Rias, although very reluctant, gave up. Issei was taken to get treatment done along with the rest of Rias' peerage while she was taken to the underworld to get ready for the wedding. Naruto could say he was proud of the job Rias did during the raiding game until she gave up at the end. Naruto was brought out of his thoughts as Blake approached him. So is it true? He asked Blake. She nodded. It is. She gave him an invitation with a reverse teleportation symbol on it. No doubt he wants to interfere while being discreet about it. Naruto nodded. I guess my official return to the underworld is today. Naruto then flared his magic to assemble his peerage. Once they were all there, he spoke. It's time to make a visit to the underworld. Narumi-chan, could you leave a few reinforced clones to watch after Kuno-chan and Mocha-chan? Narumi nodded and made a few dozen clones which went to start cleaning and getting dinner started for the two. With that, Naruto and his peerage left to the underworld. When they arrived, they appeared just outside the double doors that were open from Issei. What they heard him say next made most if not all the women, including the ones at the wedding, disgusted. Rias Buckow's virginity is mine. Naruto face palmed so hard his forehead turned red for a second before it went away. Seriously? One of the most powerful sacred gears, wielded by a pervert. As they walked into the room, they went unnoticed as all the attention was Issei for his outlandish statement. What is trash like you doing here? Riser yelled. I'm here to stop this wedding. Issei shot back. That's when Naruto made his presence known. I would like to have a word if I may. The devils in the room looked at him. Every devil who was old enough to remember him when he was still here, gasped sans the Phoenix family, Seraphol and his grandparents. Naruto looked around the room and noticed that all of the remaining pillars were there. He saw his own parents and the bales next to each other. He then noticed a boy around Rias's age. Cyraorg Biel. Born without the power of destruction. Just like him. He'll make sure to talk with him later. He then looked up on the stage and saw Sirzex and Graphia. The looks on their faces were completely priceless. They never thought that they would see Naruto again, as most of the older devils thought he was dead, being gone for so long. Before anything else could happen, Riser spoke. Who are you? Another trash devil dares disturb Riser's wedding? Many gasped who knew who Naruto was, while Raiji and Layla put their heads down in shame. Guards, remove them. The guards went to attack Naruto and his peerage. His peerage wasted no time in disposing of the guards. The guards were dealt with in seconds. Naruto stepped forward, but then younger devils saw Kuroka and went to attack her. They never made it as Naruto shot lightning at them, incapacitating them. To think this is how my peerage and I would be welcomed back after being gone for over a century. Many gasped at Kuroka being in his peerage while others bowed. The younger devils looked at the older generation in confusion as they had no idea who he was. Naruto, it's been a long time. Naruto turned and looked at Sirzex and Graphia, who stood slightly behind him. Ah, Sirzex, just the man I wanted to talk to. Sirzex smiled. Ever since Naruto left, Sirzex felt like complete and total shit. The person that always protected him and helped him when he needed him, left because of what he did. Graphia felt just as bad if not worse than he did. She fell into depression shortly after he left. She didn't leave her room for weeks and only came out when she needed to eat. Eventually she came out when she and Seraphol had to fight for the title of Leviathan. Now could be the chance to apologize and hopefully bury the hatchet. Naruto adopted a serious and disapproving look. Why is it that after the raiding game, your maid visited the pervert over there and gave him an invitation to this wedding? He said maid with some malice. Maybe not. I don't know what you are talking about. Sirzex lied. I see. Naruto started. I see she has went behind both of our backs now. The room went deathly quiet. Sirzex frowned and Graphia had a sad look on her face. It surprised Rias, as she has never seen her brother frown outside of an important meeting and never seen Graphia show any emotion besides when she was still a child. That's uncalled for, Naruto. Sirzex said. If you want an honest answer, I gave Graphia the invitation to give to Issei as he is part of Rias's peerage. He had a right to be here as the rest of her peerage is here. What he did was up to him. He lied again. Naruto didn't buy it but went along. Okay then, but why are you letting him disrupt a big event such as this? Surely as Mao, you should be considering what is best for our race. This marriage has to happen, Naruto stated as Rias had a look of horror. Unless you want this marriage to end? Before Sirzex could respond, Issei did. Not you too. Why must Rias Bucko marry this asshole? He is nothing but a selfish prick that wants to add Bucko to his harem. Naruto stepped around Sirzex and in front of Issei. Tell me, boy, what is your dream? Naruto asked. Issei didn't hesitate. To become harem king, he exclaimed proudly. The women felt sick. So you wish to have many women to sleep with and pleasure you. He nodded. Now tell me, is that not the same as Riser over there? He sleeps with most of his peerage. That qualifies as a harem, does it not? But he wants to make Bucko part of it. Naruto smirked. Hook, line and sinker. That is the same thing you just said. Issei wanted to say something but Naruto continued. You clearly said, Rias Bucko's virginity is mine, did you not? You want her in your harem, correct? Issei made incoherent sounds as he couldn't form words. Unless you just wanted to take away her chastity and toss her to the curb, which would be even more despicable than Riser. He wanted to say more but Rias stepped between them. How dare you insult my family and peerage member? Who are you? Rias said with a red face from anger. Naruto chuckled. It then turned to laughter as Rias got more irritated. Ah, I guess it's no surprise you or any of the younger generation know who I am. Sirzex stepped forward. Naruto, this isn't the time or place. Naruto scoffed. And when is the time or place? Your law was on the devils that were living in the underworld at the time. You simply thought I was dead. Naruto turned to everyone in the room. The younger devils were in an uproar, shouting things like, liar, or, imposter. Their parents and older generation just looked on with disappointed looks at how ignorant they were being. Naruto just smiled, along with his peerage, at the chaos that he unleashed. His grin grew as he saw Sirzex trying to calmly defuse the situation but failing miserably. After all those years of being a Satan, he still had little respect. Finally, Rias stepped up and spoke, causing everyone to quiet down and listen. You're a liar, she shouted. You just want to use the Gremory name for fame and fortune. Just because you have red hair doesn't make you a Gremory. She then looked at his peerage and recognized 3 people. Leonie and Narumi gave her big grins while Kuroyuki just gave her a small smile. Naruto chuckled. Is that so? Then tell me this. Why is it that I share the same hairstyle as you and your mother? Rias tried to speak but Naruto continued. If it isn't true, why hasn't your dear brother denied it? Rias froze and turned to her brother. Sirzex just turned away ashamed, and at that Rias knew what he was saying was true. Why anyone tell me? The rest of the young devils were just as shocked as she was. Another Gremory? Why didn't they know? Where were you? Why didn't Tu-sama, Ka-sama, or Oni-sama tell me about you? Naruto just looked at Sirzex and Graphia, who was standing near her husband. Well, it is kinda a long story. You see, the Ray, he was cut off by Sirzex. Stop, Naruto, you can't tell them. Not yet at least. Rias didn't like that. No, she yelled. Enough lies. Naruto, tell me why I didn't know about you. From the beginning. Naruto nodded, happy to oblige. Finally the truth would be revealed to the underworld. Well, if that is what you want, she nodded, well, to start from the beginning. He then explained his whole story and from what he knew happened after he left. He told her and the rest at the party what happened. From him not being born with the power of destruction. Siraorg perked up at this, to being neglected in training and family discussions because of it. Then to how he loved Sirzex and did everything he could for him. To the Great War where he used his advanced teleportation magic. Then to the Civil War where he killed 2 of the old Satan's children. He then got to the part that shocked all devils who didn't know. He told them about him turning Graphia to their side and dating her after the Civil War was over, followed to her and Sirzex sleeping together in his home. The room was shocked. Everything they knew was just proven a lie. So, Rias started with her hair shadowing her eyes, the Romeo and Juliet story? She looked at Sirzex and Graphia with tears flowing down her face. It was all a lie. You guys didn't fall in love at first sight? She yelled. Sirzex nodded and looked away while Graphia struggled to keep her emotionless facade. Naruto laughed. Ah, dear Imouto, there is no such thing as love at first sight. There may be people who get happily married after meeting the person who was their true love at first sight. They end up hating each other after a few years of not knowing who it was they married. Naruto explained. Take Arzeoticus and Venelana for example. He refused to call them his parents. Just like this marriage contract, they were in one also. Zeoticus being from Gremory and Venelana from Biel. A unity for strong devil houses. Things worked out at first, but as you can see, it was ultimately a mistake. Rias along with everyone else was stunned. Her parents were in an arranged marriage like she was. Did that mean they lied and said that they didn't want her to marry Riser? Were they just saying those things so they didn't look like the bad guys? After all, they haven't denied any of the accusations that Naruto was saying. That's enough. An angry voice yelled. Enough of these interruptions. Riser is supposed to get married to Rias, and Riser will be married to Rias. Riser said. Naruto couldn't believe him. He was such a tool. Never. Ah, there is the perverted idiot. I challenge you to a fight for Rias Buckow's freedom. Naruto sighed. Seems like this would still result in violence. I guess since everyone else is doing it, I wish to fight as well. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. He couldn't let this idiot mess with the wedding and shame two houses' reputations. Before Sirzex could say anything, Serafal stepped up. The fight between Naruto-kun, Issei, and Riser will begin. The man and two womanizers were teleported to a special arena. Sona quirked an eyebrow at her affectionate suffix at Naruto's name. Serafal never liked men, so for her to use it must show some importance he had to her sister. None of the devils in the room noticed the disappearance of two female Phoenix members. Arena. Naruto looked at the battlefield and saw it was fairly small. There was no room to run and no objects to use as cover. This would just be an all-out brawl. Issei just looked around confidently. He had given up his left arm just for this moment. He didn't pay any attention to what Naruto was saying in favor of ogling at the women in the room. Issei. Diedrich said from within the sacred gear. Don't fight him. Why? Issei responded. I can't sense anything from him. He is just as weak as I am, but I have a sacred gear and he doesn't. Listen, don't fight him. He will key. Issei cut the connection off, not wanting to listen to the lies Diedrich was saying. Riser didn't think much of Naruto. If his family tried so hard to keep his existence secret, he must be weak. The Crimson Flash must be something they made up to help cover up his weakness. The match between Naru-chan, Issei, and Riser Phoenix will now begin. Serafal's voice sounded out through the arena. Naruto face palmed at her, calling him Naru-chan. He looked up and saw neither of his opponents moved. He smirked. This was going to be fun. Back in the wedding room, the match was being displayed on the wall for all to see. He's going to kill them, Graphia said with slight worry in her voice. Sirzex shook his head. He won't kill those who haven't done harm to him or those he cares for. His peerage smiled as they knew it was true. But if it was us in there, we wouldn't make it out. Sirzex said solemnly, with Graphia frowning as she knew it was true. Those that heard them dropped their jaws. Was Naruto so strong that he could kill the strongest devil and strongest queen? They suddenly felt bad for the two idiots in the arena. The oldest devil nodded their heads at what they said and then looked at Naruto's peerage. They didn't see anything unusual, as everyone seemed to be part devil, vampire, yokai, human, or in Kuroyuki's case, a fairy. They then finally saw Yasaka and realized just who she was. Yasaka noticed and grinned. Her grin then turned feral when she noticed some of the more younger, political devils recognized her and paled. Rias paid no mind to it, however. Her mind was currently on overdrive as her eyes had a dull look on them. Everything she ever knew was a lie. Layla was currently helping Revel get into her wedding dress. Even if this wasn't a romantic-style wedding, Kayla couldn't help but be giddy at her daughter getting married. And to Naruto no less. She then noticed Revel's expression. It was one of uncertainty and worry? What's wrong, dear? Revel just looked at the ground. It's just that. How do I know Naruto-sama is a good guy? Layla sighed as she expected this from her. She never knew he existed until a week ago. Also, am I good enough for someone like him? He has all those beautiful women around him. I know this is just a political marriage, but I still want to be loved. Revel said as a few tears fell down her cheeks. Layla pulled her into a hug and rubbed her daughter's back. Revel returned the hug and cried in her mother's chest. I just want to be loved, Revel said through sobs. Layla smiled at her. She just wanted love and affection. Revel, honey. Revel looked at her mom. You may not know Naruto, but I do. He is one of the, if not the most friendly, loving person. He always puts those he cares about in front of him. He doesn't ask anything for himself, but what others want, no matter who they are. Yes, he may have been a monster during the wars as the stories depicted him, but those who surrendered he let return home. He is above killing those who have kindness in their hearts and only fight to protect what they love. Revel had a look of admiration in her eyes. He will never intentionally hurt someone who fights for good and protection of others. Ironic that he is a devil. They giggled at that. So what do you think of him now? Layla asked her only daughter. He is a good person. Any girl will be lucky to have him. Layla nodded. Come now. The match will be over soon and wouldn't want you to miss your wedding and honeymoon, Tilda. Layla laughed at her daughter's flushed face. Naruto was not impressed. These two were a huge joke. If this was the younger generation's talent, they might go extinct. He was dodging their attacks while his hands were in his pockets. Issei was the biggest idiot in the world. He gave up his left arm to Diedrich in order to use his power. Did he not realize that he would need the dragon magic drained out of him or have his gear sealed to have his normal arm back for a limited time? He could also sense holy items on him. Those would have worked if he was facing Riser. They would not work on him. Sure, a slight burn and itching sensation will occur, but nothing major. It was a small bottle of holy water and a cross. That would work against Riser, as he wasn't a mature devil who has developed resistance like he has. No doubt that another reason gave up his left arm to the dragon. Then there was Riser. No matter how much love Naruto had for the Phoenix family, he despised Riser. He heavily relied on his family's powers than anything else. All he did was throw fire around willy-nilly, hoping to hit him or Issei. He never used any other magic other than fire. He really hoped Revel wasn't like this. But from what he saw, Revel was a smart girl who understood the advantage of diversity. Naruto sighed as he dodged another sloppy punch from Issei. Time to stop playing around with. Naruto jumped back, leaving Issei panting, where he tried to hit Naruto last and Riser flying above him, scowling at Naruto. This is fun and all, but there is a wedding to get back to. With that, Naruto disappeared from their view. He then reappeared crouched in front of Issei and kicked him in the chin, sending him up past Riser. Naruto flashed out of sight again and reappeared around Issei, kicking him higher up. This is a move from Narumi-chan. Naruto yelled as he hovered above Issei's beaten body. Naruto barrage. He kicked Issei in the gut, sending him flying to the ground. Upon impact, a giant crater formed. The people who were watching the fight were shocked, minus Naruto's peerage. Even the older devils. They knew Naruto was fast and could teleport, but he didn't use any magic to increase his speed. That was just raw speed. Not even Searsex saw him move. That was the scene Layla and Revel walked in on but went unnoticed as their attention was on the screen. Meanwhile, Naruto's peerage were smiling as he demolished Issei. Yasaka licked her lips, Akasha held her face as she had a faint blush, and Narumi was rubbing her legs together at Naruto's strength and the fact he used her technique. They then saw Naruto look at Riser and hold his left forearm with his right arm. Dark blue, almost black lightning started forming as the sounds of hundreds of birds chirping was heard. What is that? An older devil yelled. I don't sense magic coming from that move. Another shouted. Searsex looked on with a calculating eye before Kaneko spoke. Something that shocked the whole room. Chakra, you should really feel honored, Riser. Naruto said as lightning coursed around his arm. His left eye changing from blue to purple a few times till it settled back to blue. This power is a gift from a friend of mine. Riser growled as he shot a wave of fire at Naruto, hoping to roast him. It proved useless as Naruto ran through the fire at speeds they could all see, with his arm dispersing the fire as he neared Riser. Chidori! Squelch! Ah! Riser screamed in agony as Naruto pierced Riser in the middle of his chest with his lightning-covered hand. He held his hand there, letting the lightning spread through his body, affecting Riser's regeneration. Stop! Riser pleaded. I concede. Naruto dispelled his attack and removed his hand. The hole in Riser's chest closed and he passed out from the damage of the lightning. Naruto-chan is the winner. Seraphol said as the three were teleported back to the wedding. When he appeared in the room, he was greeted with clapping from the older devils, showing him respect and astonished faces of the younger generation. Naruto smiled and headed over to his peerage, where Yasaka kissed him on the lips, which shocked those who knew who she was. Issei groaned as he started to wake up. Asia was next to him, healing his injuries as the rest of the peerage was around him to see if he was okay. Now, Naruto started, we have a wedding to continue. The room went quiet for the numerous time. Rias had a look of horror on her face. Searsex and Graphia were shocked. Rias's peerage were ready to fight if needed. Where is the lovely bride at? Naruto asked, looking for Revel. Revel was going to walk out from the back of the room, but Issei had other plans. You sick freak. How could you force your own sister into a marriage with a guy like Riser? Naruto sighed. This kid never quit. I will protect Rias no matter what. 10 seconds is all I have. Issei thought. Issei clenched his hand that had his sacred gear. Diedrig's voice shouted through the hall. Balance breaker. Boosted gear. Everyone was wide-eyed at the transformation. Minus a few. Issei charged at Naruto. Bucko will never marry Riser. Issei yelled as he neared Naruto. As Issei was within arm's reach, Naruto shoved his right arm through Issei's armor and chest, where purple, black lightning crackled around him. Issei's balance breaker shattered to pieces as he was pierced. He coughed up blood. I gave you a chance to stop and you continued to attack me. You are an idiot, Naruto said as Rias's peerage was shocked and Asia was in tears. To piss me off to where I had to use my demonic lightning manipulation must say a lot about how retarded you must be. Naruto hasn't used his demonic powers in years. For him to use it on this garbage was just a waste. As Issei slipped off Naruto's arm, he was caught by his sacred arm, suspended in the air. Diedrig, I would have thought you would have warned him of fighting me. Naruto spoke. The gem in the gauntlet glowed. I tried warning him but he didn't listen. Diedrig spoke, shocking many. It was not my fault as this boy's emotions control him and nothing can get him to change his mind. Naruto nodded. I understand but I am sorry for what I am going to do. Naruto said. I won't kill him like yours and Albion's previous hosts but I can't let him use your power until he controls himself. That had many wondering what he was going to do. Narumi. He called and Narumi appeared next to him. She nodded as she knew what he wanted. Naruto then lifted his shirt as Issei watched hanging in the air with his chest still bleeding. Narumi then stepped forward. I hate this technique for what it did to me, but it must be used as you are still immature. She said. She then held her hand back, her hand formed like she was holding a ball. Five-pronged seal. Narumi shouted as she thrust her fingertips into his stomach. Issei flew back coughing up blood as he felt energy swirling around in his body. Then he felt pain in his left arm. When he looked at it, he saw his sacred gear was gone and he had his normal, fleshy arm back. He sighed before passing out not knowing the significance of the sacred gear being gone. What did you do, Naruto? Sirzex asked. Without looking at him as he walked to the altar, Naruto responded. We sealed his sacred gear. He will not be able to call upon it unless we remove that seal on his stomach and Narumi is the only one who can use that technique. People looked at him and Narumi in awe. Now, we still have a wedding to continue. Before anyone could shout or oppose, Revel acted quickly. I am here, Naruto-sama. Everyone turned to her and saw her in a beautiful wedding dress. Revel-chan, please don't call me Sama. After all, we are going to be husband and wife. Revel cheeks flushed red. What do you mean husband and wife? Questioned Rias. Well, isn't it obvious? Naruto retorted. This wedding is for me and Revel-chan here. Why? Was her intelligent reply followed by many. You see, dear old Zeoticus and Venelana made a big mistake with the marriage contract. Naruto explained. They said, the marriage will be between the heir of the House of Gremory and the opposite gender of the child born from the House of Phoenix. He paused to let it sink in. So, I am the heir to the House of Gremory and Revel is a woman. Revel blushed at being called a woman, so we are to be wed. Zeoticus stepped forward. You can't be the heir as me and Venelana named Rias the heir. Venelana nodded at her husband's words. Listen here, started Naruto. You can't name an heir without the approval of the elders of the clan. And since Ojisan and Obachan are the elders, I think that right belongs to me. His grandparents nodded in agreement. So now we will continue with the wedding. Naruto said. No one else protested as it seemed everything was answered that was important. The wedding started with Naruto using his magic to change his clothes into a nice fitting tux. His peerage doing the same but with dresses. The minister went on with the usual banter as all the devils took their seats and Naruto and Revel stood before the minister. Revel-chan. Revel looked at Naruto who whispered at her. I know we might not love each other and you might not like me, but just know that I won't ever do anything that you don't want to do. He told her as he looked at her. She was absolutely beautiful. Not on Yasaka's or Akasha's level yet, but she looked exactly like a younger version of Layla. I know Naruto-san, Revel replied. My mother told me all about the kind of person you are. She looked away a bit. I would be lying if I said I didn't find you attractive. Naruto smiled. Take Revel to be your wife? The minister said to Naruto. I do. And do you Revel? I do. They looked in each other's eyes. I know pronounce you husband and wife. Naruto put his hand under Revel's chin and tilted her head up. Revel closed her eyes in nervousness as this was going to be her first kiss. Naruto leaned down and gave her a passionate kiss on the lips. Revel melted at the feeling and soon returned it as she wrapped her arms around his neck. The room erupted in cheers from all except one. Seraphol was pouting at Revel getting to kiss Naruto before her. The after-party went great. Guests enjoyed drinks, cake, and delicious meals. They left after a few hours of the party. All that remained were Naruto and his peerage, the Phoenix family, the Gremory family, the Seatree family, and the remaining Satans. Naruto was getting something to drink when he felt Graphia approach him. "What do you want?" he said with malice and as much disrespect as possible. "I just wanted to talk to you," she answered. Yasaka and Akasha noticed from where they stood and listened in. "I want to apologize for." "Let me stop you there," Naruto interrupted. "I don't need an apology. Because there is no need." She felt hope filling her chest. "I simply just don't acknowledge you anymore." All hope was gone. "I guess the Lucifuge clan will always serve Lucifer no matter what." "Oh wait, there is no Lucifuge clan, is there?" "The last of that clan married a Gremory and took his name." He took a sip of his drink. "Real shame too. They were a great clan except for serving Lucifer. Too bad they're all dead. I would have never let them die out," Naruto emphasized. She was shocked. He would have let her keep her maiden name. Now she was torn. Searsex didn't even ask if she wanted to keep the name Lucifuge. Michael stepped forward. "Now that we are alone, we have something to announce," he said. "Naruto is now the head of the Gremory clan." The people present dropped their food, drinks, or whatever they were holding at the time. "What?" yelled Zeoticus. "What are you saying, father? You can't do that. I am the head of the clan." Liliana spoke. "Yes, we can, Zio-kun. This is how it has been since the clan and any other clan was founded. When the heir of the household gets married, they take head of the house. It happened when your father married me and when you married Venelana." The other households nodded in agreement. "And also comes the punishment of ignoring your child," Michael said. This shocked them. "You, Zeoticus and Venelana are to become servants of the Gremory house for neglecting Naruto and abandoning him in favor of Searsex." This time Searsex spoke up. "I can't allow that to happen. They, along with Rias, cannot be servants. I won't allow it. You have no say in this, Searsex," Naruto said. "You are Lucifer. According to the rule that you made, a Satan is not allowed to interfere with clan matters. If you step down from Lucifer, you can get involved but will be treated the same as you mother and father. Along with you loyal wife and child since they both have taken the Gremory name." Searsex stopped as he didn't want his kid to be told what to do. Ironic as he told everyone not to talk about Naruto. "And what of Rias?" Searsex asked. "You're going to have her suffer the same fate when she had nothing to do with it?" Searsex asked. Rias looked scared that she would lose everything. "No," Naruto said. "While I don't approve of the way she did things to acquire the pervert and Asia, including her debating if she should revive Asia without her gear, I will give her a choice." Naruto turned to Rias. "You can remain in the human world under my supervision. That means if you want to do anything, it has to be run by me as Japan is not owned by us and I can't have you ruining affairs with the yokai faction." He paused. "Or you, including your peerage as they are under your care, can share the same fate as your parents and be servants to the main house of Gremory." Rias thought about it for a moment. While her parents and brother lied to her about almost everything, Naruto did mess with her plans for the wedding even if he had everything under control. "What about Issei? I need his sacred gear if anything happens." She tried to protest. Naruto snorted. "He has no control over his sacred gear. He lets his emotions control him. What do you think is going to happen when something drastic happens? His gear has the power to kill a god if used right. What happens if he is blinded by rage?" Naruto answered as she flinched. "His gear stays sealed unless I deem him fit to use it on his own or it is a life and death mission. You have already proved unable to control your mutated bishop. Why should I trust that you can control a boy who lets his penis think for him?" She put her head down as she knew it was true. Issei gritted his teeth in anger. "How could you talk to your own sister like that?" he shouted. "What kind of brother are you?" Naruto gave him a cold glare that froze him. "What do you know? Did you get turned away for your younger brother because of something that was out of your control?" Searsex looked down. Did you help end a great war and watched as your parents praised your brother, not acknowledging that it was you who helped? His grandparents glared at Xeoticus and Venelana. Did you spare a woman's life and show her endless love only for her to sleep with the same brother that your parents loved more than you? His peerage, Seraphal, and surprisingly Revel, glared at Graphia as her heart felt like it was being squeezed. Issei couldn't find anything to say. That is why I am like this. When you are betrayed by the ones you love, you don't care for them anymore. You should understand. Rias did let you die so you couldn't protest being in her peerage. Rias looked even more ashamed. I don't care. Rias Bucko is a good person. I'm happy I'm part of her peerage. Issei proclaimed. Good for you. Naruto said, not caring about him. What is your choice, Rias? This was a tough choice for her. She wanted to be her own person. That was the reason of going to the human world in the first place. But then again, she was in charge of her peerage and don't want them to be servants. I accept to your terms of being monitored in the human world. Naruto nodded. Then it is settled. As my first action as head of the House of Gremory, I will watch over Rias in the human world. I leave Michael Gremory and Liliana Gremory in charge of affairs here in the underworld. Everyone nodded, understanding the decision. But first, Naruto said. He reached behind him and pulled out 2 reins. He tosses them to Rias. For choosing your peerage over your pride, Asia can have her sacred gear back. Rias nodded and gave the rings to Asia. Naruto, his peerage and Revel, along with Rias and Sona's peerage, teleported to the human world. It had been a week since the wedding events took place. In that time, Naruto and Revel went on many dates to see if they connected. She was surprised at how welcoming his peerage was. It turns out that just like him, she believed that hard work made you strong and not family power or natural talent. They hit it off extremely well to the point where they would openly kiss in front of others now. Mocha and Kuno took a liking to her really quick, opting to call her Oni-chan. They were ecstatic to have another person that they could play with. Meanwhile, Rias was kept on a tight watch and was only allowed to do peerage activities when Naruto allowed. It mostly resulted in training and dealing with strays that really only needed one of them to handle. Issei didn't like that. He confronted Naruto, trying to force him to stop all his restrictions. Naruto responded by shooting lightning in his junk, making him impotent for the remainder of the month. That was the most troubling thing that happened. That led to what was going on now. Naruto had appointed Kuroyuki and Satellaizer to watch over Rias and Sona as they wanted to go to the familiar forest. Both Sona and Rias wanted to go to the familiar forest, and Naruto decided for them to have friendly game of tennis. That didn't work as they destroyed the court. Now they were just finished the second match, dodgeball. Rias ended up winning, but both teams destroyed half the school as a result of using their magic. Issei was easily taken out as he was distracted when Sona's pawn lost her top and was ogling her breast when he was drilled in the privates with a dodgeball from Sona. And again from Satellaizer as he was staring at her during the tennis match. Kuroyuki stepped forward. Rias is the winner. Per the agreement, her and her peerage will be allowed to go to the familiar forest. Sona's peerage will have to repair damages to the school for losing. Everyone either nodded or groaned, as some were in pain from being drilled with dodgeballs. Things were going great. Asia just got a small, blue sprite dragon familiar. It was very protective of her and despised males. Especially Issei. Anytime he went near Asia, he shocked Issei quite painfully. Ironic since she named him Rasei after Issei. Now they were being covered in green slime that destroyed clothing. Kuroyuki used fire magic to burn it while Satellaizer shocked it. When they turned to Rias and her peerage, they shook their heads in disappointment. The women were struggling to get the slime off with their hands instead of using magic, while Issei was crying tears of joy trying to get the slime to be his familiar. He then looked over at Satellaizer and Kuroyuki and frowned as they weren't covered in slime. Kuroyuki was furious at what he was thinking and summoned her scythe, hit him with the back of it, sending him crashing into a tree. You pervert! Have you learned nothing? Trying to leer at us? Kuroyuki saw red at what he said next. Why would I want to look at your flat chest? Kuroyuki was going to kill him if it was for Satellaizer stepping in. She gave Kuroyuki a look and she nodded in understanding. You don't understand the situation. Satellaizer said. What do you think Naruto would do if he found out what you just said? Issei paled. He was still unable to get erect because of his last meeting with Naruto. Satellaizer smiled evilly. I'll show you what he would do. Issei's screams could be heard through the familiar forest as Satellizer stomped on his family jewels for the remainder of the trip. Naruto was looking outside the sliding door to the backyard smiling. This was all he ever wanted. He enjoyed moments like these. He was taken out of his thoughts when Seiko walked up to him. Naruto-kun, Seiko started. I have information about the church. Naruto nodded for her to continue. They are sending 2 holy sword users to search for them here. They will arrive within the next few days. Also, word is that Fried and Valpier are working together. Naruto nodded. Thank you Seiko-chan, you can relax for now. We have a lot to do in this next few days. She nodded and went to her room. Now he had to get ready for the exorcists to get here and prepare for the meeting. Maybe have Rias there to show her how to be diplomatic instead of always causing a scene. Naruto sighed as he looked in the backyard where Kuno, Mocha, and their mothers were having a nice lunch together. The rest of his peerage was swimming or sunbathing. He took a moment to think about how his life got to be this way and how he met all these wonderful people. It was all thanks to Ophis and her blunt ways of doing things. Ophis. He couldn't go much longer. Naruto was getting exhausted. He kept avoiding Ophis's attacks with his speed. She didn't even look winded whatsoever. He knew that she had a near infinite amount of power, but this was just ridiculous. What kind of overpowered being was she? They were fighting, or running in Naruto's case, for a few days now. Or weeks. Naruto couldn't really tell as there was no sun or moon here. Every attack she threw at him, he would run from it. Aside from a few scratches and bruises, he was fine. He started to breathe hard after avoiding another attack from Ophis. You are irritating me, she said in an emotionless tone. You could just give up. Naruto breathed out. He had to avoid another attack. Fine, we could just call this off. Act like this never happened because I can do this forever. He lied. He could maybe continue for a few more hours. He was unable to use his teleportation technique due to having wasted his reserves. That will not happen, she replied. I intend to win and have a strong child and have you join me. She stated bluntly. Then why not compromise? She quirked an eyebrow at this. Why don't you let me he was cut off. I will allow you to go to other dimensions if you agree to give me a strong offspring. His sweat dropped, blunt and straight to the point. He thought about it for a while. He didn't have to help her in her schemes but did have to give her a child. While he didn't want to think of any of that as he just had his heart crushed, he needed to keep his emotions in check or else she would play off of them. He also needed to give her a child if he wanted to go to other worlds. But she never said when he had to mate with her. I accept. Ophis nodded her head. Good, now let's mate now. Naruto stepped back. Wait. I can't do that while you look like that. Naruto said. Also, we should wait. I mean, you wouldn't want your plans ruined due to having and taking care of a child, right? Ophis thought about it and nodded. He sighed of relief. You are right. Having a child now will deter me from being fully focused on my plans. She said. However, I cannot send you to another dimension, yet. I have to wait until an anomaly or strong enough force happens in one of the dimensions. But once you enter, I can keep it open by sending my magic into the rift with you. Naruto was about to ask something until she continued. You see, she started. Trihexa, or 666, was a being of immeasurable power. He was able to reshape the land with just a sneeze. This was why the biblical God had to seal him away. While it lasted for many days, when God was sealing him, Trihexa shot out almost all of his power to stop God. The power was so potent that it started to create rifts in time and space. Some of these collapsed on themselves while others stabilized and formed places or worlds within. This place, the dimensional gap, is the tie-in point for the rifts that stabilized. She said as Naruto nodded that he understood. The rifts that stabilized ended up having their own universe. The rift will open when it gets weak from a supernatural cause and opens momentarily. With my power, I can keep it open, granting you access to and from the dimension. You will not be stuck there. They are also all connected to our world in a way. Some have devils, yokai, and other supernatural creatures that we have here. There's also a world where a portion of Trihexa turned into a tree filled with chakra such as the yokai here. While others have plagues or will have them and some fighting alien species to survive. Naruto was dumbfounded. Trihexa was able to create other worlds just by flaring his power? You have to be an idiot if someone ever thought they could control him. I recommend you find somewhere to stay until an opening to a new world appears. Ophis said before she expelled him out of the dimensional gap. She thought, he was able to survive the gap without me protecting him. He is an interesting one indeed. Yasaka. When he came out the portal Ophis threw him into, he appeared in a forest. Once standing up, he dusted himself off and looked around. Nothing but trees. Great. He then went to feel for any living people in the surrounding area. He sensed multiple signatures heading towards him. But one stood out among the rest. It wasn't the vast power she had or the potency of it. It was warm and welcoming. As he finished his thoughts, multiple people surrounded him. He noticed that most of them had animalistic traits and features. Some had elongated fangs while others animal ears and tails to go along with them. But one stood out the most to him. She had golden blonde hair with 2 fox ears on her head. She wore a traditional Miko outfit. It was strained against her larger than normal breasts. He could make out 9 golden tails swaying behind her as she stared at him. Beautiful, he unconsciously said. A pink tinge adorned her cheeks before she spoke. What is a? She licked her lips a little seductively. Handsome man like you doing trespassing on our land. Naruto had a faint blush on his face. Yasaka-sama, he smells of devil, said one of the men by her said. That's when it clicked. Yasaka, the new ruler of Kyoto, a Kyuubi. Naruto bowed. My apologies Yasaka-sama, I meant no harm by coming to your territory. I was forced here against my will. She had a questioning look on her face. By who? He cleared his throat. Ophis? You could hear crickets as he said that name. The infinite dragon god, one of the strongest beings in existence. And this man just said he was forced here by her. They got in battle-ready positions. If she sent him here, he was possibly an enemy. Yasaka meanwhile just narrowed her eyes. Why were you sent here? She asked. I didn't have a say. We were discussing a deal and she sent me here until things were ready. This caused them to be more tense. What do you mean? I'd rather talk about it in private as I don't want prying ears to listen in. But by all means, I mean you no harm. Me being here is just a misunderstanding. She didn't reply as she looked at him more thoroughly. The red hair, the smell of devils, his familiar face. Who are you? She asked after inspecting him. My apologies, Naruto said. I am Naruto Gremory, from the house of Gremory. He said as he bowed. The battle-ready yokai members gasped at that name. He was the man who helped turn the tides for the devils in the Great War. The man who killed 2 of Mao's descendants. The fastest man in the universe. Also, the man who was the talk of the supernatural world these past few days. Yasaka's eyes widened. He was supposedly the strongest devil in existence right now. Along with the rumors of him leaving the underworld, if he turned, it would be wise to befriend him unless they wanted to be on the wrong side of a fight. She didn't believe what those political devils said about his younger brother. Having one powerful attack meant squat if you could counter it. Is it true? Naruto looked confused until she explained. Why you left the underworld? By the hurt and anguish on his face, Yasaka knew it was true. What do you plan on doing next? She asked to get his mind off the painful thoughts. I am planning on finding a temporary place to stay. Naruto answered truthfully. If it isn't too much to ask, may I reside here for the time being? Yasaka looked at her people and saw some were staring at him in awe and others in fear for the power and potential he had. You may, only if you answer my questions and help me when needed. She said that last part a little too friendly for Naruto's liking, but nonetheless, he nodded. Time skips. Naruto followed her and her entourage back to their home. He then told her of his plans of traveling to other dimensions to get away from this one. He also told her of the deal he made with Ophis and the circumstances of it. She believed him and allowed him to stay. He was grateful and helped her as agreed. He stayed there for 6 months and he was afraid. He was afraid that he was falling for Yasaka. She was a beautiful woman and very independent if the way she ran her people meant anything. A woman leading a whole faction of people, very impressive. It first started after she found him moping in the hot springs, tears falling down his face. She originally went to try and seduce him, but her attitude changed the moment she saw his distress. He was so lost that he didn't notice she was there until he felt her hug his side. He didn't protest and put his face in her shoulder and cried. That was the day Yasaka learned everything about him. His life, how his parents were, how his brother treated him, and that silver-haired whore. Yasaka may come off as a tease, but she has never been with anyone. She was waiting for her true love. Her mate to love forever. She also told him of her life. The stress of leading so many, being scrutinized for being a woman, and being compared to the previous Kyubis that came before her. After that incident, they were together all the time. Naruto never left her side and Yasaka vice versa. They depended on each other. They sought comfort in each other's presence. Then came the time when Ophis told him a rift opened and he needed to go soon or it would close. He decided to go now. When he told Yasaka this, she couldn't help but feel a bit hurt that he was leaving. She was also falling for him. She had a feeling that he was her mate and true love. She brightened up when he said he would be back and if he could stay here when he returns. She eagerly said yes and wished that he stayed safe. This is how things continued for a few years. He would stay in Kyoto and spend time with Yasaka until he left to the rift that Ophis opened. Then more and more rifts became available and he was going to them, thus not spending as much time with Yasaka. She was heartbroken, feeling that he didn't want to be with her anymore. He would only visit for a month or two before going off to the dimensional gap. And when he came, it was with the people he made into his peerage, which were all women so far. This continued for almost a century. She was filled with jealousy and hurt. She felt he had used her and now taking advantage of her letting him stay here. To make matters worse, she was entering her mating season. She then decided to confront him. She called him to her office. Once he entered, he saw her with a serious face sitting behind her desk. "Yes, Yasaka-chan?" he asked. "It's Yasaka-sama." Naruto looked at her questionably at the change in attitude. "We have to talk." Her once bright golden eyes turned cold and icy when she looked at him. "How long do you plan on freeloading and taking advantage of me?" Naruto was shocked. He would never do that. Before he could respond, she spoke again. "I thought we had something. That you cared for me. I now see I was just a means of housing you and your harem. You're no better than that whore who left you for you." She never finished as he flashed to her and pinned her back against the wall by her shoulders. "Don't you dare compare me to them," he yelled as his eyes stared into her soul. "I'm nothing like those backstabbing bastards. You thought I cared for you? Well, guess what? I don't." Yasaka looked like her heart shattered as she looked at the floor. "It's because I still do. I still care for you. And I was afraid of being hurt like before. I'm afraid of being in love again." Yasaka looked up and saw that tears were falling down his face. He spoke again. "And you're not the only one I fell for. On my travels I fell for another. I can't decide. I can't hurt you or her as she feels the same about me like you do." He put his down as he let tears fall down his face. "I love you, and I love her too. I don't want to choose, so instead of hurting you or her, I stayed away from you and her." He froze as he felt a hand on his cheek. "Naruto, the only thing that hurt me was you distancing yourself from me. I don't care if you love other women as you deserve all the love with the way your life has been." She pulled his head to look into her eyes. "All I ask is that I be with you first." Rias was nervous. She had never been this nervous in her entire life. Why was she nervous, you ask? The reason why she was so nervous was the fact that her newly discovered brother informed her of 2 holy sword users coming to Kuo. Now normally she wouldn't have been nervous about dealing with the church, but the fact that her brother, Naruto, said this was an important meeting was putting her on edge. That and the fact Naruto was coming with a few peerage members of his to watch and supervise this meeting. She really wanted things to go well and have him see her as a strong, independent woman and not some spoiled princess. Ever since she met Naruto, they spent a lot more time together as he took over as the guardian of Kuo on behalf of the yokai faction. They had talked much and got along well when he would visit the club. He was just so different than any of the other pureblood devils. She was happy she had a brother like him. Brother? Rias frowned at that word. Or at least when she thought of her other brother. Sirzex. She had always looked up to Sirzex not just because of his power or status as Mao. She looked up to him for his kindness and the fact that he always treated Rias like a sister than just the Gremory heir. She loved him for that, as most of the elders just treated her like royalty instead of a normal girl. That was where she got disappointed in herself. She thought what she was doing was good and would benefit others. But when Naruto told her to look at her actions from a sensible point of view, she felt terrible with her actions. When she thought about her own actions, to anyone else they would see a manipulative girl who would do whatever she needed to get her way. She had let Issei be lured into trap with the fallen to die so she could resurrect him as her pawn. She then let him go off on a reckless mission to save Asia. She knew the chances of him rescuing her were slim, which would be great as she would have been able to revive Asia too with a very powerful sacred gear. All of this was so she could get out of a loveless marriage with Riser so she can be in a marriage with her, love at first sight, so to speak, and in a sense, true love. Love at first sight. True love. Did that even exist? Is it real? She always wanted to fall in love like Circex did. The Romeo and Juliet story that everybody was told about Circex and Graphia. All the young devils her age believed that story and wanted a relationship just like that. The typical true love and love at first sight stories started to go around and was Ria's ultimate goal to find her true love. Only to find out that it was a lie. Rias almost had a breakdown at that Graphia was dating Naruto only to cheat on him with Circex. She had always looked up to the both of them. She always wanted a relationship just like theirs. She had always bragged about how they were the most perfect couple that there was, and to have a marriage like theirs was a dream to strive for. Now all of it was a lie. Add to the fact that she had a brother. A living relative that no one told her about. Hell, not even the devils her age knew about him. The only people who knew he existed were the ones who were around before he vanished. When she wanted to know why she and the others young devils weren't aware of his existence, she was miffed that her brother made a law preventing anyone from speaking about him. He was the Crimson Flash, for crying out loud. The biggest help during the Great War. He had the fallen fleeing and angels cowering when he was on the battlefield. Able to transport hundreds of reinforcements in a second and change what was a 5-to-1 war to an even playing field. The most famous devil, beside the original Lucifer, in existence was her brother. With all of this new and shocking news, Rias couldn't even look at Circex the same anymore. He kept a family member secret from her. Even her parents kept him from her. The supposedly Gremory kindness was just a big lie. A family who is known for treating their servants as family wasn't worth much if they neglected their own kin. As far as Rias was concerned for now, Circex was no longer her brother. Naruto wasn't that great at first either though. He berated her for being a spoiled brat and manipulated person. He stole Asia's twilight healing and sealed off Issei's boosted gear. He basically set her up for failure. She struggled with her fight against Riser, and if he wasn't her brother then she would have had to marry Riser. He voided her marriage with Riser by marrying Revel so she didn't get stuck with a pig for a husband. Now that she thought about it, Circex could have done something similar. He held the title Lucifer so his word is law. Sure, he isn't supposed to show favoritism, but his title was obviously more important than his sister. And the whole arranged marriages were a tradition of sorts was a load of crap. If it was a tradition, then why wasn't Malika's made the heir and put into an arranged marriage with Revel? Don't get her wrong. Rias loved Malika's dearly no matter what Circex and Graphia did, but Circex was the original heir and old tradition was the oldest male of the house was made the heir of said house. And since the title of Lucifer was no longer passed down to their children, then Malika's was still a Gremory. Plus, they were devils for crying out loud. They lived for hundreds and even thousands of years, so why did they have to be married so early on in their life? Rias, is everything alright? A voice said, bringing Rias out of her thoughts. Rias shook her head and composed herself. She looked around the ORC room and spotted the owner of the voice. Everything is fine, Sona. Just thinking about this meeting and what is to come. Sona just nodded and stood off to the side of Rias' desk with her queen Tsubaki. Rias looked around the room and took in all the occupants there. Kiba was standing near the opposite corner of the room leaning against the wall. An ever-present scowl on his face like he bit into something rotten or spoiled. Akano was standing next to where she was sitting at the desk with her signature fake smile. Kaneko was in her favorite spot on the couch munching on some sweets. Issei was sitting on the opposite side of Kaneko with a look that showed he was deep in thought. And her final member, Asia, was sitting next to Issei looking at him with worry evident in her eyes. She then shot a final glance at Sona and Tsubaki. Naruto had invited Sona to the meeting as this was also a learning mission for the two of them. They would see and experience how to deal with a diplomatic mission with Naruto being the representative of the yokai faction and dealing with any violent issues that arise. Rias was only able to relax for a few minutes before Naruto teleported into the room. She stood up quickly as a sign of respect as she still didn't really know how to act around her new brother. Everyone followed, although Issei flinched at knowing who it was. Please, Rias, you don't have to do that. Just treat me as you normally would. Naruto said, walking forward. Rias nodded and noticed the other people behind Naruto. The first person she saw was a tall blonde woman with fox ears and 9 golden tails behind her. This was Yasaka, leader of the yokai faction and Kyoto. Also, Naruto's wife and queen. The next person was a girl who looked slightly older than Rias and had beautiful purple hair. She wore a school uniform that she wasn't familiar with. She carried a wooden bakken on her back. This was Seiko, Naruto's pawn. Naruto, Yasaka, and Seiko made their way off to the side of Rias' desk, and not soon after did they hear a knock on the door. "Enter," was all Rias said before 2 girls walked into the room. The first girl had blue hair with a small piece in the front that was green. She had dark yellow eyes that held a bit of arrogance in them. She wore a white robe that covered the rest of her body and had a sword that was wrapped on her back. The other girl wore a similar robe as the first girl. She had light brown hair that was in pigtails like Narumi had. She had violet eyes that held love and compassion in them. "Welcome," Rias started off. "Xenovia," said the blue-haired girl. "Irina," said the brown-haired girl in a joyous tone. "Welcome Xenovia and Irina," Rias properly greeted. "If you may, have a seat and we can begin." They nodded and took a seat in the chairs that were in front of Rias' desk. "Now what is it that had you call this meeting?" Rias questioned, feigning ignorance. She was slightly filled in on what was going on thanks to Naruto and the little excursion that Kiba had with that white-haired nuisance. "We are here to discuss the missing pieces of Excalibur," Irina said a little too joyfully for what they were discussing. Rias simply quirked an eyebrow along with Sona, but both for different reasons. Naruto had told Rias that much and a bit more. However, Sona was in the dark and was interested in seeing what was going to happen. "There have been reported sightings of the missing pieces of Excalibur here in Kuo," Xenovia started. "We were sent here to see if they were true and to retrieve them if they are indeed here." "So you guys are here asking for our help then?" Rias asked. "No," Xenovia answered coldly. "We do not want any intervention or help from you. This is the church's problem, so we want you to stay out of it." Many of the occupants were shocked at the bold statements that Xenovia was making. Naruto merely quirked his eyebrow at her attitude. She must have some big ones to say that while in a territory controlled by devils. Naruto contemplated. Or really stupid. Rias was contemplating just like Naruto was. If this was the Rias before Naruto showed up, she would have flat out yelled at her and demanded respect. But she had developed a similar way of thinking like Naruto. Such bold claims to make in a territory controlled by devils. Rias responded. "You are in our jurisdiction, so I do not have to abide to your demands." Xenovia and Irina just stood up and started walking out the room. "That does not matter. This is the church's issue," she said before she stopped where Asia was standing. "You look familiar," Xenovia said. "What is your name?" Asia looked startled. "Asia Argento," Asia responded. "So the rumors are true," Xenovia said. "You have become a witch. Tell me, do you still believe in God?" Asia nodded as she fell to her knees from the hurtful words Xenovia said. "Then if you still believe in God," Xenovia said as she unwrapped her sword to show it was the holy sword Durandal, "you will allow me to end your life and cleanse your soul of the wicked devil blood that flows through you." Asia didn't respond besides letting her tears flow down her face. Everyone was shocked at what was about to happen. Issei moved to attack Xenovia, sacred gear or not, she was his friend. "You would risk war over one girl?" A voice interrupted everyone in the room. Issei stopped where he was and Xenovia lowered her sword. "What do you mean war?" Irina questioned as all eyes turned to Naruto, who spoke. "I mean what I said. You would risk starting a war over Asia. She is a devil and you are from the church. While you can try to protect your actions saying you cleansed the soul of a former nun, that doesn't change the fact she is a devil who has not done anything to harm you." Naruto explained. Attacking a devil during a diplomatic meeting on devil territory is asking for war. You kill Asia and we kill you. The temporary peace that all the factions are in will cease to exist and another war will break out. Xenovia just had an emotionless facade while Irina frowned at the logic that Naruto spoke. She looked at Xenovia and saw she didn't care for what he was saying. Naruto spoke again before Irina could talk to Xenovia. "How would you feel knowing that you caused that war with your actions? Thousands of people dead, humans, devils, angels, and even fallen. Not to mention the thousands of other races out there will perish over your so-called cleansing. You would watch as your friends are killed before you on the battlefield. Your comrades and leaders slaughtered before your very eyes. Naruto said with a bit of malice in his voice, shocking the people in the room besides Seiko and Yasaka. They then remembered that Naruto was in the Great War between all the factions. Xenovia Quarta, under the guardianship of Griselda Quarta. Tell me, Naruto said, mocking what she did to Asia, what would you do if Griselda was killed in the war? Go in a fit of rage and try to get revenge, thus leading to you losing your purification from the church? Or worse, if one of the nastier fallen or devils get a hold of her and have their way with her? She is a beautiful woman after all, Naruto said to the shock of others. Is one stupid action worth the lives and purity of the ones you care for? That is what you will have to deal with in war. That is if you aren't dead yet to witness it all. Xenovia just stood there as her hair shadowed her eyes. What was that? Naruto asked. I said shut up. You have no idea what goes on in my life and what matters to me. This is the church's mission, so just stay out of it. Xenovia told, shocking Irina. Xenovia was always composed and rarely showed emotion like that. How about a wager then? Naruto said, gaining everyone's interest. A battle of swordsmanship. If we win, we have the right to intervene, and if you win, you do as you please. Deal. Xenovia hastily said. Who will I be facing? Before Naruto could respond, someone cut him off. I will. Kiba said, walking forward. Naruto just looked at him questioningly before he remembered the information he had on Kiba. Fine, but let's up the ante then. Naruto said with an alarming grin. You will face Kiba and our original deal stands. However, if you beat Kiba, you and Irina will face off against Seiko here. No one besides Naruto and Yasaka noticed Seiko's bloodthirsty grin. If you guys can beat her, then not only can you do as you please, but as the representative of the yokai faction, you can have this territory known as Kyoto. Naruto said as everyone's jaws dropped. What if we lose to Seiko-san? Irina asked before anyone else could question Naruto's sanity. If she wins, he paused. We get to keep one of the holy swords of our choosing. Xenovia and Irina looked at each other briefly before nodding. Deal.